support is that she's on the daughter and doesn't go to all this stuff. I don't think, campaigning, not her thing.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. The public is reminded that if they wish to speak, they do need to complete a speaker form found out in the lobby to turn it in during community comment. Persons may speak to the board about topics relevant to the district. All community comment will take place at the beginning of the meeting, and folks will have 4 minutes to do that. Before we get into our agenda, Superintendent Degner has something to share.
Thank you, President Eystone and board. Over the weekend, 2 different students in our district shared racist social media posts, including appearing in blackface and making a threat of racially motivated violence using an abhorrent racial slur. This caused hurt and harm to black students in our district. Yesterday, we saw protests occur at West High. Today, we again saw protests at Northwest Junior High and West High, and we could see more in the coming days. The Iowa City Community School District's absolutely condemns any type of discriminatory harassment. This type of behavior is unacceptable and will be addressed through our disciplinary policies. We will not tolerate racism, hate, and other discriminatory acts. We want to make clear our ongoing commitment and support for our BIPOC students, staff, and leaders. Although the spark for the protests may have been the aforementioned social media posts, the reality is that some of our students are releasing their frustration on a system that has been stacked against them for far too long. Our kids are hurting, and we must acknowledge them and make them feel heard and validated. It is important for us to focus on where as a district we have failed to live up to our stated values. Our students are telling us that we are tolerating discrimination and harassment. Our students are telling us that we're creating an environment where hatred and bigotry can grow. Our students are telling us that they do not feel safe. We must listen to them. We acknowledge that the initial information shared yesterday did not effectively communicate all of our students' perspectives, nor the situation that led to the protests. We have a responsibility to look at the ways we provide support to our students to honor and respect their experience. It is incumbent upon us to all be part of the solution. We as a community have to look at our faults and our strengths and come together to create a better future for our students. We need everyone to be part of the solution, and we need everyone in our buildings, at home, in our school community to condemn racism in no uncertain terms. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. This board supports the administrative team's work in this area, and we fully support our BIPOC students and staff, and we do not tolerate this type of behavior. That's all I can add at this point. I should introduce everyone up at the table here. To my right, Superintendent Degner, Directors Williams and Godwin. To my left, Vice President Malone, Directors Clausen and Eastham, and Recording Secretary Kim Colvin. First up on our agenda is our student representative update, and Tate High is up first. We have our rep from Tate.
Hello, Iowa City Community Board members. My name is Skylo, and I am representative of Tate High School. This is Tate's first time at the board meeting, and we have a great start to the first trimester. The Warriors started off this school year with an orientation week focusing on our core values: caring, ownership, respect, and responsibility. Students learned about expectation in all areas of the school, as well as how to access many resources we provide to our students, including the following: academic help during Warrior work time, nutritional items from the Tate Takeaway pantries, transition and employment services for assistance with job applications and resumes, mental and physical health support. And during the first trimester, the Student Council also held a Spirit Week and the Fall Dance Party. Our weekly clubs have also gotten off to a great start. We currently have the following clubs: Spoken Word Poetry, Glitter Club, Book Club, Art Club, and Dance Club. We have planned a tour for the Kirkwood Regional Center of the University of Iowa next Friday for students to tour academies that are offered for next school year. We look forward to ending our first trimester strong and having our PBIS Awards Assembly. We invite you to come visit anytime to see all the great things we are doing daily. And thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Sky. Next up, West High.
Good evening, respected board members. I am Atika Shah, the student body representative for West High School. Instead of using my time today to provide information on school activities, I would like to do something more meaningful, address the recent events at West. It is imperative that the district receives an explanation from a student perspective about what has been occurring. This past weekend, a West High student was recorded using the N-word on social media. This word is deeply offensive, problematic, discriminatory, marginalizing, and oppressive. Using a word that is rooted within America's history of oppression comes with consequences, and this student was taken off campus and received a suspension. There was a follow-up meeting organized Monday morning for students to voice their thoughts to the administration. Several students used this platform. I would like to convey their sentiments from the meeting. Amongst those present, there was a unified push for a zero-tolerance policy that is consistently enforced with clear consequences. Students did not believe issues like this should be treated in a case-by-case basis. They felt like they were not part of the community within West High and felt unheard. Students did not want to jump into immediate problem solving and instead wanted to continue sharing their experiences. To achieve this, they felt that the best measure was to carry out a protest. Their goal was to have the administration understand the students' grievances. This is just the opinion of the students that were actively involved in the protest. There was also a large share of the student body that was not protesting, and I would like to communicate some of what they experienced. The rest of the student body has varying opinions, with some believing that the protest led to disruption of learning and fights. They believe that issues should be treated on a case-by-case basis since this would provide the strongest level of punishment for those that deserve it, therefore serving the most justice. There are other students that agree with the protesters that the administration needs to implement policy, however question how a lack of people of color within the administration is going to create a policy that is fair and serves justice. Some agree with the goal but do not agree with using a protest to communicate this goal. The administration at West has communicated with student leaders that were heading the protest. There are efforts being made to create a space where students will have an active say in decisions about policy related to race. There will also be measures taken to ensure that the community at West extends to all students regardless of race. Currently, there are a lot of opinions going on within the school regarding the issue. And honestly, as a student myself, I do not believe there is one correct answer. Issues related to race are sensitive topics and they must be treated with care to ensure that no student feels discriminated against. I also understand that whatever action is taken, they will receive some backlash from people that feel differently. However, I can say that as of today, the atmosphere has changed. It was more hopeful, and I could sense that the events of yesterday were going to lead to some meaningful change. I only hope that the school district board uses this event to spark discussion that has been silenced for years. If we don't talk about race, we will never find a solution to push past systemic discrimination against students of color. Thank you so much for your time and patience as always. I have confidence that the right action will be taken. Thank you.
Do we have a representative from City High tonight?
Hello, my name is Ayla Bashir,
And I'm Rebecca McKaylee.
and we just wanted to voice our gratitude for the opportunity to provide the school board with City High updates. Before we give our update, we did want to make a quick comment. Although we are the co-class presidents, we have not yet had the chance to talk to our fellow classmates at City about the recent events that Superintendent Degner referred to earlier. So this is coming from the two of us as students. The current protests are a prime example of students feeling unheard and unsupported, and we stand in solidarity with our friends at West.
For our school update, we'd like to start by saying we're proud of our football team. They're playing at the UNI Dome this Friday. Our boys cross country team also placed third at state, and we won our IHSPA Journalism Award for the 5th year in a row. We had a robotic competition at City High, which went wonderfully. Our play Noises Off also went wonderfully. That was a big success. And we are also very proud of our all-state musicians. Nick Proud from Portrait of a Graduate came to speak with our Student Senate on Friday, which was wonderful. That was a great opportunity for our student voices to be heard. And also, I'd like to reiterate everything that Ayla said. Student voices must be heard, and we are looking to the board to be receptive. Thank you.
Thank you both. We have our Liberty representative here tonight.
Good evening. Our names are Tyler Moores and Beatrice Kasky, and we're here tonight to serve as the student representatives for Liberty High School. Excuse me. A lot has happened since we last talked with you, and we're excited to share updates. Before we begin, we would like to note that we support the student activism that has occurred at West High School, and we love that they demand for the justice of their fellow classmates. We ask that you make decisions that reflect this across the entire school district so that we can see change at our own high school as well.
I completely agree with everything she just said, but now on to the update about our high school. Our sports teams have spent the last month wrapping up good seasons. Our volleyball team made it to state and finished 34-5. Boys cross country team placed 12th in state, and Ashlyn Keeney competed in the girls cross country state and placed 7th overall. Liberty cheer team won a co-ed stunt group division at the Iowa High School Cheerleading Championships. Senior Samantha Klein finished first in the diving regionals, and the combined Weston Liberty swim and dive team were the overall regional champions. They are headed to state on Friday. Liberty is incredibly proud of our student athletes, and we're looking forward to cheering on the winter sports as they start their seasons this week.
As for our fine arts department, they have also kept themselves very busy. The theater department put on 2 showings these past few weeks. The student-led and acted productions group put on a completely student-produced performance of Almost Maine, which was followed by the Liberty Theater department with the play Puffs. Many students also auditioned for All-State. We are very proud to say that we have over 20 students accepted, with 8 for band, 11 for choir, and 1 for orchestra.
Our journalism staff were also honored recently by earning over 24 total awards for their yearbook and placed 3rd best for their yearbook in the state of Iowa class.
Outside of all these awards, Liberty is wrapping up a great trimester with lots of fantastic student opportunities. Last Friday, the French, AP, and Sealed by Literacy class were selected by the Francophone Center of the Americas to have a personal slam poetry workshop with poet Matthew Libby. Here, the class had a one-on-one Zoom call that not only enhanced their language skills, but introduced them to the world of slam poetry and the way in which their language can expand across the classroom.
At Liberty, artist Miriam Alcaron Avila also presented her art project, titled Luchadores Immigrants in Iowa, for students to talk about the important symbolization of not only lucha libre masks, but their Latino immigrant identity.
Lastly, after the election last week, seniors participated in a voter registration drive, and we had over 50 new voters successfully register.
We've been incredibly busy this past trimester and look forward to continuing to share Liberty's accomplishments with you all at every opportunity. We want to thank you for your time and all your continued support. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Our ICA update, Brady.
President Eystone, Directors, Superintendent Degner, and Brady Shutt, President of the Iowa City Education Association. I'd like to just first start by recognizing and honoring the students and their activism and their commitment to equity and to a school environment where there is no room for hatred and discrimination and racism. And I think that we're all deeply committed to that. We obviously have work that we need to do. And I'm very appreciative that the students are here with us tonight to really share sort of their experiences with us. So I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank Superintendent Degner. We've been out, and this will be a little bit of a different topic, but we've been able to go out and visit a bunch of our schools. We've made a commitment this fall to getting out and just seeing really what life is like in the trenches of our schools. We spent a lot of time in our elementary buildings. It's been very, instructive for us just to see, how things are going. We even had the opportunity to go to the School of the Wild, and I'd like to thank the foundation and their sponsors. It's a fantastic program. And then lastly, I'd like to say, just on behalf of ICEA, a really special thank you to Janet Godwin, Director Godwin, for her service, and commitment to all of our students and being such a great champion for public education. on your time on the board. Probably, if you were to pick 4 years to serve on the board, this might have been the toughest 4 that you could pick. But Janet, I just really have always appreciated and respected how you're able to, you have such a great strategic and analytical mind, and then you also balance that out with just tremendous empathy and compassion. So we thank you for your service on the board, and wish you all the best in the future. Thanks.
Thank you, Brady. All right, we're going to do the grow your own at a future date as schedules allow. So we're going to move down into the community comment. I would remind everybody that you will have 4 minutes. We have quite a few, so I want to kind of hold us to our schedule and do your best to speak into the mic so everyone can hear you. First up, we have Joseph Dobrian. They're all mixed in.
This is the last meeting of the board's current membership, so this will be my valediction till we meet again in 2 weeks. I congratulate the departing members on apparently having accomplished what they set out to accomplish, and I bid them Godspeed. Tonight, I call the board's attention to that which they've already had their attention called, and I have to tell you, I did not know about the demonstrations nor the incident or incidents that sparked them until I just walked into the room and asked a student what was up. So I had these remarks prepared already, and I find that they are somewhat appropriate. No culture before this one has depended so doggedly on grievance. No culture before this one has clung so desperately to victimhood. And if we have victims, we must have villains and scapegoats. This oppressed versus oppressor culture has no link to truth. If there is no truth that transcends our objectives, what is there but power, aggression, and violence? We can't have civility and epistemological relativism unless we are all forced to think alike. And if we are not allowed to argue our way to truth, all that's left is force. If you're a child in this culture, trying to get along in an environment where the individual child is powerless, you won't dare to seek truth with a capital T. Children must be encouraged to pursue truth and beauty and good, rather than to parrot the narrative. Now, why do I speak up at these meetings when I know perfectly well I am not making a lot of friends by doing so? Out of a respect for truth, out of concern for my neighbor, and for the salvation of my own soul. We live in a society that worships falsehood. We must fight this anti-truth culture. I would not be able to live with myself if I did not. I would not dare to face God if I did not. To explain my presence at these meetings, I'll conclude with this quote from the poet T.S. Eliot. If we take the widest and wisest view of a cause, there is no such thing as a lost cause, because there is no such thing as a gained cause. We fight for lost causes because we know that our defeat and our dismay may be the preface to our successor's victory, though that victory itself will be temporary. We fight rather to keep something alive than in the expectation that it will triumph. I ask God's blessings on your deliberations. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen.
Next up, Orville Townsend.
Good evening. I recently heard a recording and it involved a West High student who made the statement, "Stab a nigger in the eye." I mean, I couldn't believe that a student would make this statement, especially in a crowd. But I think the student statement is a symptom of the culture that's happening at West High School. I've come before you before. It was years ago. And I was complaining about the difference in treatment that black students got as opposed to white students. White students feel freely. They have privilege. But if a black student yells or something, minimal stuff, the staff end up calling the police and the student ends up down at the police station. But this is what we have to deal with. But when it gets to this point where you've got a student that feels comfortable making a statement like this, it's serious. Number one, it borders on a hate crime. Number two, it indicates doing harm to another person. Now, you could probably have all kind of legalities toward this individual, but I don't want to spoil or ruin a student's life. But I do want you to open your eyes. I want you to see that we have a problem. West High School it's a nice high school, but so is City High. We don't have these kind of problems at City High. But West High School has always been privileged. And I just want to let you know that I'd like you to stop and think about what this privilege is coming to. And I just hope that this student or no student finds a nigger to stab in the eye.
Thank you, Orwell. Next up, Angel McCambry. If I'm reading that right.
I wanted to speak on behalf of the situation that's going on at West 2. I feel like the district isn't doing like what they should be doing, and like it's making like me not feel safe, like especially knowing that the comment that he made and that like he's not really getting any consequence for it. And I feel like they should just be doing more, because I'm in 8th grade. He's not gonna be like at West when I'm there, but like I still feel like unsafe because he's like about to be like out inside the world, like he's about to be 18. And when he's 18, like you don't know, like he has like free right to do anything basically, so you don't know what's gonna be going on inside of his mind and stuff. So like I just feel unsafe. I feel like the district should be doing more, and I just wanted to talk about that. And like we protested at Northwest too about it, so I just like want to be like heard. Like I want you guys to know that like I hope you guys like are doing what you can. So that's
yeah. And I feel like the teachers at West, they care more about white students' mental health and well-being more than POC, because like it takes POC a long time to get like 504 plans and help, because in white teachers' eyes, they see it as they're like acting out, or like they come from like a violent home or something like that. But in reality, they don't be helping out black people or Hispanic people, people of color just in general. So yeah, I just wanted to say that. Thank you for the time to speak.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, next up, Shankel Cooper.
Can y'all hear me? Okay. I just want to get straight on the point. Okay. Can y'all hear me? Okay. I just want to get straight on the point. It's very disrespectful, like what's going on in this community, along with the school district. Like it's very appalling to even see any of this. To even have this meeting where there shouldn't even be a meeting, he should be expelled to begin with. That's the stuff that he said. It's basically inciting violence. It's not okay. And the fact that he was suspended, like it makes no sense. It makes no sense to me one bit. Basically, it's really hard being me as a black male in the school district because the fact that I'm just completely, like, just repeatedly targeted against just by my race without even knowing me. It's traumatizing and disrespectful all at the same time. It's really wrong. It's repeatedly wrong over and over again. It's not just for me, for anybody. It's just any minority. They have a worse time than just white people in general at that school because white people have the freedom to do whatever they want without no backlash. It makes no sense to me, one bit. And like even having this meeting right now, there shouldn't even be a meeting to be had because it's been said over and over multiple times. Whenever, like wherever, whatever, it's been said multiple times. We're still having this. We're still having this problem actually because y'all still not doing what you guys need to be doing. And it's just sad. It really is sad. That's really all I have to say. Like it's just do better. Really, just do better.
I apologize if I'm not getting the reading right. Is it Tori Cooper? Oh, yeah, okay. Thank you. All right, so we have a double, Angel Taylor and Melanie Hester together. Or one after the other.
So just to piggyback off what the kids were saying, last night at our meeting at the Black Voices, I was very upset that one of your board members, let me read this. The fact that a board member sat in on one of our meetings and was more outraged by a statement that I made as to why your superintendent couldn't even take 5 minutes out of his day to be there to acknowledge the severity of this issue. One of our kids was, well, not one of our kids, because an attack on one is an attack on all, but they were threatened. The outburst just let me know where she was in the school board, okay? And she was more, again, outraged, and she did the whole, oh my God, she's making disparaging comments, and I wasn't. I stated a fact. You weren't there, Matt. You chose to be coaching your daughter's basketball game. And I was upset because, again, our kids' safety, it's an issue, it's in jeopardy. And as I really sat here and thought about it, I said, this school board, I'm starting to wonder if the school board is, I think that you guys are to our students what the police are to our black men and what doctors are to our black women. You guys are doing nothing. We have shown up so many times, it's getting old. It's getting old. But, and I'm not gonna call it any names because she knows exactly who she is, okay? But her outburst really demonstrated the power of privilege and what happens when that privilege is misplaced. This sense of entitlement and privileged attitude that she had shown yesterday is the reason why black and brown people have been ostracized since the beginning of time. And this is why Black Lives Matter is so vital today. So you guys really need to do better. I'm tired of talking. Do better. Because this right here, you guys, your staff is a reflection of its leadership, and it's very poor. I will say that. And again, our black administrators, they are dismissed for less. I've seen so much stuff going on. Our kids, they are disciplined for less.
I can add on to that. Go ahead. Some of my very special, dear to my heart students showed up in the back. Hello, all my old Alexander kids, hi. They should not be here for this reason. They should be enjoying their extracurricular activities, doing what families do, spending time outside of school, studying, homework. but instead they're having to show up here today in support of an incident that we all know happened. But what I would like to bring to your attention is that a few years ago, when the Iowa Freedom Riders were creating their demands, one of them was to have consequences for the teachers who are causing harm to our students. Some of you were there at that meeting that we had with them. And Mitch Gross was one of the people whose names frequently appeared on the Black at ICCSD's Instagram page as a person who continuously uses the N-word, makes students feel unsafe, and nothing has been done. That was when he was principal at the junior high. And now he was promoted to the principal of the high school. And now this has happened. What's going to be next? What is it going to take? Is it going to take a shooting? Is it going to take one of my babies back there dying for you to do something? Consequences need to happen for our teachers who are causing harm.
And the students, do better.
All right. Next up, Mary Coughlin Julian.
All right. Here I have 4 minutes. I'm not good with time or numbers, so keep me on track. Thank you. My name is Mary. I have 2 children in the school district, my own personal children. I happen to be a school district employee as well. But tonight I'm here on behalf of my children and the children that I have had the privilege of learning from in these last 7 to 8 years. One of my students goes to Southeast Junior High and one goes to City. And I hear regularly about injustice that they experience daily via text, via interactions at school. One of my students was involved in an altercation at the junior high. They happen to be white. So I know that their altercation is not based on their skin color, but on their identity, their other identities, their intersectionality, if you will. However, they have it light because they happen to come from me, because they happen to have skin that is white. If their intersectionality included being a person of color, their experience would be exponentially worse. And I am certain of that. And I have heard from students that that is exactly the case. I am here tonight because I am tired. I am tired of people I love experiencing so much hate and violence. I am tired of people trying to explain why it is okay to use inflammatory and hurtful language while hiding behind the First Amendment, using it as a cloak to do and say whatever they want to justify doing so for others to do so as well. I am tired of that. That is not what the Constitution is for. If you scream fire in a movie theater, you get charged. If you say, I want to stab someone, specifically of color, in the eye, you should be charged. That is my opinion. I am not a lawyer. We'll save that for the people who are involved in that. I'm happy to debate on many things. It is my right to have a different opinion than you. It is your right to have a different opinion than me. However, opinions are not meant for things that involve racism. Our children, sir, are not powerless. Our children are pursuing truth, are pursuing the right to have a safe learning environment. That's all they want to do. They want to go to school. They want to learn. It's impossible for them to learn in the spaces that they have right now, for many of them. Our children, whether you like it or not, are having their truth heard. So I would suggest that instead of trying to continue to placate people with meetings and involving them and inviting them to speak, that you shut up and listen to what they want, what they need, and let them tell the truth about how to fix it, because we clearly don't know. We messed it up. We've been perpetuating it. Let the kids do the work.
Abdallah?
Hi everybody. I think some of you guys, they remember me because in 2017, I stood here talking about West High and what's going on in West High. We did rally in downtown, we protest, we did everything. And what's happened? Steve Merle, nothing. Scholes, nothing. And at that time, Gross is the assistant principal. And now, after 5 years, I repeat the same story. For you guys, that's as a job, but it changed a lot of family. And like, I know a lot of kids, they happy with Corona because they stay home, not because of Corona, because they try to avoid West High School. How they treat over there, from the principal, teacher, everyone, they don't have any support. Minority kids, they struggling. Please, guys, do something. And if you can't do it, or you fail your job, that's okay. Just tell us the truth. We can't come here every 5 years. We talk about the same issue. We got tired. Our kids, they just run away from the city because they can't stay here. And now they get in the point, they avoid the school. They staying because of COVID, is not of COVID, because they can't be in West High. And I know a lot of people, they remember our situation, but I'm so sad because minority kids, that's their style life. And you guys, you don't do anything. I know for some of you, it's just a job, but for us, it's a style life. Please help those kids. They deserve better. And if we like it or not, those kids is the future of this country. It is what it is. Just accept it and help them. And we can do better. But if we repeat ourselves every 5 years, that's not going to help. Like other lady, she said it's going to be ending shooting, crime, whatever, and we don't want that. And thank you.
Next up, Bakit.
I thank you for the opportunity. The stories I heard make my job very easy. I will start to say race is not a semantic issue. It is a reality, social reality, economic reality, cultural reality, psychological reality, and the list is long. What happens and what we are meeting here for is a spark, like many other spark pop here and there. And I don't think I need to tell you, you have to do better. You must do the right thing. There is spark, and you have to put the fear down. And you know the way. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, I apologize, I can't read the last name, but it looks like Sala B. Not sure what the last name is.
I came on behalf of immigrants at West High. I'm a student at West High. I'm a senior. I came to West High to pursue my dreams, but I feel like everything is shattered. I am an immigrant. I'm not only black. I was attacked, not directly. My dreams were attacked. I was told at West High by staff that all teachers think that immigrants come to the U.S. thinking that they could be doctors, engineers, anything, but that's not true. How is that even not true? We can be anything. You, I, all of us, we're not different. We're not different, all of us. Just because of my color, just because I came from a country in Africa, Sudan, just because I did not study an English as a first language does not mean that I cannot become a doctor. That is not true. We can become anything. I want to speak to black that I want to tell them that we can all fight discrimination together. You cannot be alone. You won't be alone, because I will fight it with you. If you fight with me, if you stand along with me, we are the future of America. If you do not listen to us, America will be shattered.
Thank you. All right, next up, Steve Tembea.
My name is Steve, and I'm speaking on behalf as a West Side student, and pretty much have what you've heard pretty much from everyone here on this situation. Personally, as the way I feel on how things haven't been handled by the staff, by administration, and by the ICCSD itself, I'm pretty sure that throughout the years, you guys have been informed about any situation, regardless of something that involves racism. And from what I've seen and even personally experienced, nothing has really taken to the extent fairly for situations like these. And pretty much on what they have kind of said, my job and what I'm required to do is go to school in order for me to learn. But in order for that to be able to be acquired and stuff, I want the environment to make sure it's safe and well maintained as well. But if that is not a first priority, that is not something I want to be a part of. The fact that a situation like this was handled in the way that it was does not seem to be fair for me and for other people. Situations like these shouldn't ever have to be exposed or be even occurring at all. And the fact that I have to question myself as a black man, whether or not I'm gonna start off the day on a good foot and whether I might have to come back home, that's a question I put in my mind every day. It's not something I wanna have to deal with. It's not something anyone should ever have to deal with, regardless of their race or anything. A lot of people get harassed due to their religion, their culture, their sexuality, and no action is taken care of to the extent of how it should be. And this situation really needs to be handled more than the way it is, because for other people in the future to attend that school, for whatever school it is, it needs to be handled in the proper way, because situations like these are out of control and it puts other people at risk for them mentally, emotionally, and also physically. So as of your part, I really would highly and really need you guys to really play a part and to take control and better actions into situations like these in order for me and other people, in order for us to feel more comfortable in our environment. Because this is not something I want to have to deal with at all as a student. I shouldn't have to question whether my safety is the same as somebody who is not of color, and whether or not the consequences of a situation, whether I were to get into or not, is handled into the right way. So please, as you hear us now and tonight, and until something is taken care of, that we are not going to shut our voices. We are not going to hold back anything, because until a change is done, we will gladly make sure that our voices are heard all over the world.
Thank you. All right, next up we have, looks like Lean Abdallah.
Hello? Okay. Hi. My name is Lena Abdullah. I'm a student at West High. There's a couple quotes that I want to speak and say. They're from the Black Panther movement during the 1950s, since a lot of students don't even know what that is because the lack of education that the district has time and time again failed. So one is from Fred Hampton. We don't think you fight with fire. We don't think you fight fire with fire best. We think you fight fire with water best. We're going to fight racism, not with racism, but we're going to fight with solidarity. We say we're not going to fight capitalism with black capitalism, but we're going to fight it with socialism. We're stood up and said we're not going to fight reactionary pigs and reactionary state's attorney like this, and reactionary state attorney like Hanaran with any other reaction on our part. We're going to fight their reaction with all of us, people getting together and having international sorry, so nervous. Revolution. That's Fred Hampton and Angela Y. Davis. When black women stand up, as they did during the Montgomery bus boycott, as they did during the Black Liberation era, earth-shaking changes occur. So me, as a black woman, I will ensure that earth-shaking changes occur, because I don't stay here to be silenced. I want people to know their rights, such as the sorry, I can't find it. Such as the Civil Rights Act of 1964 is a landmark civil right and labor law in the United States that outlaws discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, national origins, and later sexual orientation and gender identity. Meaning you cannot discriminate anyone, whether in school, work, any other places. And since time and time again, students are being discriminated, if you guys don't want to show that you care and prove your worth to us, I don't mind taking you guys to court, because that's our civil right. We're time and time again here speaking to you guys, clarifying ourselves, taking this and taking actions. This shouldn't take 10 years. Does Eric Gardner need to die again? Does Trayvon Martin need to die again? Does George Floyd needs to die again? No, they don't. They should have been in that, had died in the first place in that way. And you guys are by letting this happen, that means you guys don't care about us. That's the message that you're sending us. Stop putting people in positions that you guys have to constantly be called out and look like a fool. Because West High looks foolish. Northwest looks foolish. City, foolish. Liberty, foolish. All of Iowa State, foolish.
Next up, Sarah Ali.
Hi everyone, I'm happy to be here. This is my first time. I moved from another state to here, and I'm so disappointed to see that the community of Iowa is so primitive in these aspects. You feel like, you are not stable. I don't see any, you guys so primitive, honestly. I came from another state, and I'm shocked how people in Iowa are frozen. I don't know what's going on in your bodies. I don't know what these looks means. Okay? I'm so surprised, I'm so surprised. Are you human being like us? Do you eat and laugh and feel sad and cry and laugh when you're happy? You are very strange to me. I came from other states where there is white people, there is black people, but I feel like a disgusting thing that I can't understand. How are you surviving? Life is so short to waste in this nonsense. Okay? Life is so short, okay? Why are you preventing white people and people of colors and everybody to enjoy the existence of all of them being around? This is a fortune. We are wasting the American fortune. They're people. The people is the fortune, not the money is the fortune. The people are the fortune. You can find any job, okay, that pays you the same thing you get now, okay? But this stage is a holy stage, okay? If you are educated well, you will not sit here, okay? So I or anybody needs to tell you what to do. That's shame on you. Number two, I feel sorry. I know I'm not here for the black kids, for the white kids, because, actually I am here for them in a way, in what I'm going to say now, because you don't have the family of the white kids, and even you or anybody participating in this, you don't have the right to destroy the mentality of the white kids and make them feel like they are more than who you are. You don't have the right to lie to them and make them feel this way. They are not more than anybody else. They are just normal people like everybody else. You're building the future. The dictators, okay? This is the lesson that the teachers in West High that are teaching now, unfortunately. Are you happy with this? Are you here for clapping for them? Okay? This is one thing I wanted to say. The other thing, the principal of West High is very, strange. Like, don't you know sitting here means work? Huh? Don't you know you are here to work? I'm surprised on you. The principal sending us, I received two emails from the principal. The first one telling me generally that there is some student protesting, the content of the email that some students are protesting, and that all these, nonsense sentences that the school support them standing for what is right. What about you? What about you? When I read all the email, he didn't even mention why the students are protesting. It does make sense? He doesn't even mention his first email why the students are protesting. And send him I replied for him. I said him, sir, you didn't tell even what the students are protesting for. Then he emailed back with another lie that the students are protesting for an incident, a racial incident that happened in social media, okay? And then when I kept reading the email, the rest of the email is about how these Protestants are distracting the learning process, okay? And that's whatever nonsense. So he he doesn't have even the courage to state that West High have disgusting, stinking environment of discrimination is going for years, okay? Since my kids went to this school, and this is all the schools, okay? But it's not as huge as in West High. Why? I don't know. Maybe you have answers, but racist, whether it's a little bit or big, is the same thing. What's your action, okay? What your take on this? What you gonna do? I don't want you guys to pollute our environment. We need the white, we need the black, we need the Hispanic, we need everybody to make this land grow and succeed. So please, use your mind. You don't have the right to destroy black kids, nor white kids, nor nobody, because you're destroying white kids by letting them think what they're doing is right and not doing anything, okay? And also destroying the community, because if you're saying doing nothing, then saying to the community, to the white families that it's okay to raise your kids this way, which is not, because you're abusing your kids by teaching them disgusting things.
Two on this one, Nisreen Ghali and Deasia Lewis. Excuse me.
Good evening. My name is Nasreen Ogali.
And I'm Deasia Lewis.
And we are the student leaders of the peaceful and nonviolent
Peaceful and nonviolent
protests and movements going on at West High. We are here to speak up and advocate for our people. I am a proud Muslim Sudanese American, and Deasia is proudly African American. West High's population is mostly made up of minorities, but our voices are not heard. Therefore, we would like to highlight the recent events occurring at West High. I've been at West High for 4 years, Deasia for 2, and we've encountered numerous racist and microaggressive situations during our time at West. Over the past 2 days, we've organized protests and movements at West High to highlight the racism going on at West High School, to start up change, because what is happening is completely unacceptable. Today, we created signs for the students at West High saying, "I am not a target," and for allies saying, "Black students are not targets," to invite people to speak up about this topic that students peacefully wore all day. We will continue working to fight this injustice at our school and encourage other schools to do so.
We came here to make sure our voices are heard and let you guys know that we will not stand down. We will continue to work with the district to figure out all these situations and hope that the district will take this matter seriously and you will not silence our voices. I want to add, not only is this mentally exhausting, but this is emotionally exhausting. That you guys constantly preach equality and you don't tolerate racism, but you're allowing students to publicly bash black people. I want you to know that we will stand with our black people and all from our black sisters and brothers. When I say I got y'all, so that's why I'm here right now. If you will not advocate for us, we will advocate for ourselves. Thank you for your time.
Yes.
Bina Kariuki.
Hello, my name is Bernadetta Karaoke, and I'm a senior at West High High School. I've been a student of the ICCSD as far as I've been in education, since kindergarten. Although I've been here for so long, I've seen so many disparities firsthand from myself and from my peers. From many students being sent down to the office, being called out in class, there's been a culture built up that you need to be a perfect Black student. You need to work twice as hard. From one of my books that we're reading in African American literature, Between the World and Me, the author quotes, to try twice as hard is to accept half as much. And that's exactly what all the Black students have been doing here at West High. As personally making honor roll and trying to succeed academically, all the stares in AP classes do not go unnoticed. I've never truly felt close to West High, even as a senior, but I'm very proud of what we have done this whole week and very proud of all of my classmates. Especially proud of my close friends and all the great allies that have helped us come this far. I've never truly felt a responsibility, but now as a senior and through this movement, I felt very validated and my voice matters. And although I do not have siblings, I know that the future of students relies on us now. I will not leave this school knowing that other Black students will not be treated fairly. After this board meeting, I hope that many changes will occur. And although many of us appreciate all the space that we've gotten to speak our voices, this is not enough. We need to see change. This must be the last time we have to exacerbate ourselves just to get an education and be teenagers. Let us be kids. I'm not even 18 yet. And still, yet tonight, we are coming here to voice our opinions just to be treated as human beings. Basic respect is deserved by Black students, just the way it is for white students and other minorities. So for me and others, change is a culture starting now. Thank you.
Next up, Dan Kawa.
Hi, good evening. I would just like to say that how many times does this need to happen? How many more racist incidents need to occur before this district will take the steps necessary to address racism at ICCSD? I grew up here. I went to West. There are lots of problems at West. I mean, they've been there for decades, probably since the school was, definitely since the school was started. I mean, from racism to homophobia to other kinds of bigotry, it's there. It shouldn't take an incident like what happened, like the deplorable incident that happened this weekend, to make y'all address these problems. I mean, I don't know what more you need to take the steps necessary to make it so that kids can be kids, so that they don't have to be afraid of racism, so that they don't have to use Corona as a ploy to not go to school when in fact they're terrified of racism. I mean, like a lot of you folks up there like to think that you're so progressive, but I mean, by not fixing this stuff, you're no better than the outright racists. I mean, because you're harboring that problem, like these problems. So I would just like to say, listen to the feedback, do whatever it takes to fix these problems, because if you don't, you're just as complicit as the hardcore racist folks. So, thank you.
All right, next up, Harry Manalagad.
I'm here to talk about the situation at West High. I'm not sure if I'm entirely up to speed, so if my understanding is not correct, please correct me. So my current understanding of the situation is that a white student said the N-word on Instagram. Yes, there have been demonstrations, and the administration has not adequately heard their concerns and in some ways opposed the act of protest. This is an important part that I need to double check with everybody. I've been told there was a physical altercation involving both white and Black students, and a staff member called the police. Is that true? called though? Were there police called though? Like in general, like? Okay, so they did call the police. It's not connected to the protest, but I still think it's completely unacceptable, and it still like shows a very like clear disparity between the way you treat white students and black students. There's absolutely no valid reason to call the police on a black child. I don't care who you are. I don't care what the situation is. How can you protect a racist white student because you don't want to disrupt his life at such a young age? It's really disgusting when you consider what kind of things can happen when you call the police on black children. You want to protect this racist, violent white kid's ability to graduate high school. You want to protect his college prospects or whatever his future is. Hopefully not a cop. But you don't see any problem with black children being potentially brutalized by police. You think that expulsion and criminal charges are too harsh for a white student that has quite literally committed a crime because you don't want to destroy his life with criminal charges and outstanding permanent records. So why do you suddenly have no problem with potentially destroying a child's life with criminal charges when that student is black? This disparity between a This disparity between a white kid inciting racist violence and being treated with kitty gloves and black students potentially having violence or worse inflicted on them is clear. The racism in this community is obvious and it is violent. ICCSD needs to do better. There needs to be significant consequences for both racist students and the racist staff members and administration that permit and encourage racism. These are kids we are talking about, and they deserve a learning environment free from racial trauma and violence. Now you think that criminal charges on this white kid are going to disrupt his life? You think that expelling him is going to make it hard for him to learn? Well, you know, I think like if I were in a classroom and some kid 10 feet away from me, if I knew this kid wanted to stab me in the eye, I think that would disrupt my ability to learn. Wouldn't you think? Are all you white people on this board just going to stare at me and not answer that question? You don't think that's disruptive? I have an answer for me. Do you have an answer for me or no? I already know y'all aren't allowed to speak in the middle of public comment. It's cool.
Yeah, okay. Just to clear, it's not that we don't want to speak. I'm breaking rules by talking.
Oh yeah, I know. I just want to make these like racist ass white administrators look foolish, so.
Sand Porter. Roy Sand Porter.
Hello, I'm Roy Sand Porter, Johnson County Supervisor, first black person elected to a county seat. I want to let these kids need to know that I've got their back. For what's going on tonight, I've got their back. I've had a lot of people's back. I've been to these meetings many times. Each and every one of you know me personally. When that mom got up and said, she stood before you in 2017, West High, this is nothing new. This is nothing new. And Mitch coming on, this is baggage he picked up as well. When he left Northwest, he had baggage. He left baggage to come to baggage. But this is something that we have to talk about, people. We got to. When we talk about or see a young man, a young white man on social media that says he's going to stab a nigger in the eye, that nigger could be me. As an elected official, I have to watch my back. I've gotten threats. People make threats to us all the time. Ruthenia, you black, you get it too. If we don't say something that the white people agree with, then guess what? We catch holy hell. I haven't had the threat of being stabbed, but somebody said that they would spit on me. And I guarantee you, that would have been their last spit. I guarantee it. So I'm up here to represent the Black Voices Project. A lot of people don't know what the Black Voices is, but we represent all colors. It don't matter who you are. If there's a problem in the school, if it's with police, if it's with the housing authority, or it's our education, we represent them. And I want to read you a little something. The racist social media posts shared over the week by West High students are abhorrent, and on behalf of the Black Voices Project, I condemn this behavior in the strongest possible terms. First and foremost, I want Black students to know that we have their back. We support your attention to the injustice you experience and will assist you in submitting any formal complaint consistent with district policy. Secondly, we want the board and the administration to know we will be awaiting a decisive response and consequences for the students who perpetrated this violence against their own classmates. We have full confidence in the team of professionals the district has assembled in the equity department. We know that they are prepared to address the harms done and to ensure our Black students are safe and protected at school. Beyond any school-based consequence, we expect the school district to refer this verbal, confirmed, recorded act of racism and hate crime threat to local law enforcement. We have seen time and time again that police are involved with incidents related to poor choices by Black students. We expect the same level of scrutiny for the hateful behavior of these white students. In addition, the support of Black Voices is extended to all students in the school district as our expectations involve appropriate behavior and good decision making. Transparency is key, and that's one of the problems why everybody is so upset. There was an email that went out to the parents. Not one time did anybody know that this had even happened. I truly believe that if you had sent out an email that just stated what really happened, we probably all wouldn't be here today. You have to take full responsibility for what's going on. You have to. I had a conversation with Mitch Gross. I've talked to him. And it's time to stop talking the talk, but you got to walk the walk. Transparency is key.
Next up, is it Jayla Graham? Or Jalen?
Hi, my name is Jalen Graham. For the recent events that have been happening, I feel like it's very you guys have so much power, yet there's nothing you can do. There's been numerous occasions of racism, inequality in the past, and there's still nothing being done, really, in the school system especially. I've been called slurs in high school, middle school, and even elementary, and yet I feel nothing's different. Why is that? I feel like I'm in America, right? This great big country, everybody gets what they want, and yet I feel like I'm just not really important, just because the color of my skin and not the context of my character. I feel like it's very unfair that a student or students in the past that have said racial slurs, committed racial offenses, or even sexual offenses, and they have not been dealt with at all whatsoever. Especially the boy over the weekend, on what he said, he still haven't been dealt with. He's been taken to a police station. Out of all things y'all could have done, a police station. But yet you're the Iowa City Community School District, right? All this power, so big, so strong, nothing's being done, right? That's crazy.
We have Fatma Comey. Fatma Comey.
Hi, I'm also a student at West High. Like most of the people here, I'll also be addressing the situations that happened at West yesterday. We had a talk with some of our staff, the same staff who've been continuously taking their part in oppressing us. I've heard so many stories of our staff being racist, and they've had absolutely no consequences. None of the school district actually takes their part in making sure the POC at schools in ICCSD feel safe with situations regarding racism. I think they're a lot more concerned with making sure the white people feel comfortable than have us be relieved of even a little bit of our constant discomfort. Yesterday during the in-school protest, there were so many non-black people just laughing at us and looking at us like we were stupid. Imagine you telling people about all the harm they've been causing you and they just laugh in your face. It's just disrespectful. Instead of having the same fun high school experience my white peers have, I'm breaking down at school over the racism I faced and sitting in on school board meetings begging to be treated fairly. If you can't stand up to the promises you've been giving black people and other people of color, please step down and let somebody who can take your place. Also, I'd like to mention, I think some of these situations happen to come from pure ignorance. I don't know much about who comes up with the curriculum at school, but I don't think it's fair that we have to come up with whole different classes just to make sure we're having some of our cultures and stuff covered. I'd like to close off with 2 quotes by Malcolm X. The first one, concerning nonviolence, it is criminal to teach a man not to defend himself when he is a constant victim of brutal attacks. My second one, if violence is wrong in America, violence is wrong abroad. If it is wrong to be violent defending black women and black children and black babies and black men, then it is wrong for America to draft us and make us violent abroad in defense of her. And if it is right for America to draft us and teach us how to be in defense of her, then it is right for you and me to do whatever is necessary to defend our own people right here in this country. Through my peaceful language and religion, I will say, Allah Hadikum.
I know I already went, but there is a teacher that I want to address, Mr. Hartwig. I know we're not supposed to be addressing names, but it don't even matter at this point because students are being blunt with what they gotta say, and I'm gonna be blunt with what I gotta say. Mr. Hartwig is a teacher that continuously, time and time again, make black students feel threatened. Mr. Hartwig had constantly excused his behavior for saying the N-word for a academic reasoning. There is no academic, there is no social, there's no political, there is no reason for him to be saying that. And the funny thing is, every teacher, every white teacher in the literature department says that the district says that it's okay to say this stuff and if it's in an academic sense. So my problem is if teachers are saying that you guys are allowing this, that means you guys are allowing and excusing racism within the school community, meaning you are threatening other students by your own doing, meaning you don't care from the get-go. That's what it shows, because so many students, so many teachers have been saying that the districts, this is part of the curriculum, meaning you guys have allowed this. You guys have allowed this to go on, you guys don't care, and you guys clearly, quite frankly, are insulting when you guys talk about you're going to defend us, you're going to help us. It doesn't show. Y'all talk a whole lot, but don't even do jack. So I just want to say, and I'm going to reiterate what I said earlier, if you guys do not prove to us that you are going to stand up and make a difference, I will take this to court. I will take it to federal court. I will make a difference, whether it means West High's name got to be dragged through the dirt, because I'll drag it with pride.
Fatima Ali, it looks like.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. Hi, my name is Fatima, and I'm a student at West High, and I'm a proud Sudanese Muslim woman. And not only have I experienced racism for being Black at Iowa City West High, I have also experienced racism for being Muslim. And I would like to speak on that because there has been multiple instances where people have came to the school board, have came to the principal about how they have been feeling. And nothing has been happening. There has been no change, and I would like to see change happen. Okay, so I just don't think that there should be even be this meeting. I feel like there should I feel like this shouldn't even be happening in the first place, and I feel like students should have been feeling comfortable. They shouldn't feel unsafe to be coming to school. I shouldn't feel unsafe to be coming to school and being experience racism and all that. Yeah. And also, I shouldn't go to school and be scared to experience Islamophobia. And yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Next up, Trey Meese.
Nick, can you help Lori?
Okay, so I wasn't really prepared for this, but I just want to start off with a quote from Malcolm X. And it says, "I'm going to tell it like it is. I hope you can take it like it is." So basically, I want to speak on the Parker McBride situation as well. I'm pretty sure you guys all know what he said, but the fact that you guys are dismissing it and silencing our voices it's violence. Silence is violence. So I just feel like we shouldn't have to be here. This whole situation should not have us be here to tell you guys how we feel about something basic. He shouldn't say the N-word and he shouldn't threaten us. If I were to say, God forbid, I'm gonna shoot up the school, you guys would do something, act fast. But you guys aren't acting fast about him threatening to poke a nigga in the eye, which is almost like it could be any Black person. And you guys don't care. We should not have to be here. People have sports, people have lives outside of school, and the fact that we have to spend our time here is disappointing. I don't understand what you guys want me to say. I just feel like I shouldn't have to be here. I shouldn't have to tell you guys how I feel. You guys should know this. It's wrong. That's all.
Is it Tanya? Is it Frank? Can't quite read it.
It's Tanaya. I'm Tanaya. I go to Liberty, but I'm here to speak on the Parker McBride situation also. I created an account with a bunch of my friends back there. It's called Black Voices Heard. It's on Instagram. You all should check it out and like look at the website in the bio. I created the website in the bio and I put a bunch of links and like to shelter houses and all this other stuff, but I'm not gonna talk about that. I created another Google Doc form for people from West and all these other schools to share their experiences with like racism. And the name that showed up the most was Mitch Gross. That says a lot about the West environment and the people that you guys choose to hire. You guys say that you want to protect Black students and protect people of color, but you haven't done anything to protect us. You continuously hire people who openly admit racist things on school grounds without even like trying to do anything about it, which just says a lot about the school district that my parents have chose to put me in. For me personally, I didn't get any help until I was like on the verge of killing myself. Do you know what that says about your school district? Do you know what that says about you guys as people? No one cared to listen to what I had to say until I was in the psych ward. And then when I got out of the psych ward, people decided that they wanted to listen to me because they were afraid that I was gonna die. So listen, I wrote suicide notes about teachers at my school. I put their names in my suicide notes because I was afraid that if I go back to school, that they're gonna say something to me, and then when I get home, I was gonna just down a bunch of pills. And that happened countless amount of times. Too many times. I've tried to kill myself too many times because of the teachers you guys chose to hire. The kids at my school are racist. They don't care about Black people. They don't care about anyone but themselves. You guys need to do something about this. This is tiring, continuously trying to make a difference and I'm proud of myself for even just creating an account with my friends. I'm proud of myself for doing that. But if one more thing happens and then that thing causes me to want to hurt myself, what will people say about y'all? What will they think about y'all? And I'm not talking to you guys personally. I don't know any of you guys personally, but the teachers that you guys chose to hire, what will that say about them? And the teachers that you guys chose to hire, that reflects on y'all. All of y'all, every one of you guys up here. So think about that when you go home tonight.
Next up, Sakona Kaita.
Hi, my name is Sakona Kaita, and I'm a sophomore at West High School. I wanted to come here to talk about how poorly the West High admin team handles situations that have to do with racism. Last year, me and a few of my friends called out another student for doing blackface. I have a good relationship with Mr. Gross, but he quickly shut me down. He said that she was wearing a face mask, even though it's very easy to tell the difference between a marker and a face mask. I was told that I couldn't come to any of our football games because the students felt threatened by me. The fact that I was punished for something that another student did was crazy. Fast forward to last Friday, I went to the office with one of my friends to get a drink of water from the water fountain. I wasn't gonna name drop at first, but Mr. Overholt was one that did that, and y'all need to do something about her. Immediately, the secretary said, "Why don't you drink from the water fountain?" And that's not how you ask for something. Stop being aggressive towards me. Immediately, I started to defend myself because I was not aggressive. That's just how I talk. I explained that to her, and she continued to call me aggressive. About 5 minutes later, I went off on her. She said I was disrespectful, even though she came at me first. I walked out the office with my friend, and the secretary decided to eavesdrop on our situation and said, "Say it to my face." So we started arguing again. Immediately, a teacher came back and started holding me back. But what about her? She was jumping at me like she was gonna do something to me. I was sent home and I was put in in-school suspension on Monday. We protested, but another issue came up and I got sent home again. Mr. Gross and my mother had to talk on the phone, and Mr. Gross said that I can now come back into school until he figured out the situation. I find that highly unfair that again I'm being punished for something that a teacher did to me. When will it end? Also, I wanted to add that another time me and my friend were talking to the secretary a few weeks ago. We were talking about black issues, and the secretary said to us, "I'm from the South, I know how y'all get down." I did not want her to be fired at first, but now that I think about it, that racist needs to go. Thank you.
Next up, apologize, is it Anaya Franklin? Anaya?
My name is Naya Franklin. I go to Liberty High School. I have been silenced many times, but today is not the day. I am tired. We are tired. The school district has tried to put out many times that they understand us and they are here for us. But where were you? Where were you when the post was sent out? Where were you when I had to tell my black peers what a white student did because you couldn't? Where were you when I was silent many times because I could ruin a white child's dream? Where were you when my people were out in the streets crying and begging for equality?
We can't express enough how tired we are. As teenagers, we should be able to come to school and not fear for our lives. We should be able to go to Mitch Gross and express how we feel about racist white kids and racist white teachers. I shouldn't have to be here at all. I should be out there living my life. I shouldn't have to fear, am I going to wake up the next day? I shouldn't have to fear, is my dad going to come home? You are not doing your job at all. And all y'all is sitting up there and acting like you guys don't understand. You don't understand what the pain that all black students have to endure in your school district when you're supposed to be fixing it. You are not doing your job, and I cannot express that enough. You need to do better. And when I say do better, do better. Honestly and truthfully, do better. Don't act like you care now and don't care later. I need you to care now, and I need you to understand that we will take it to court. We are not playing. We are fed up. Extremely fed up. And I'm tired, and I'm tired, and I'm tired, and I'm tired of expressing how tired I am of being in this school district and you guys are not doing anything. You say you don't tolerate racism, but you allowed Parker McBride to send out that post. You allowed him to keep it up and bash black students. You don't know how it feels to be a black student or be a black kid in America. I need you to understand that you are not doing your job. And I need all of you guys up here and right here to do your job and listen to us. Thank you.
Next up, Daisha Taylor.
Long meeting, huh? Yeah, that's what happens when we ignore the oppression going on in our district. Is this enough truth for you? Is this enough? Because this is what we have. We only have trauma coming from this district. I was lucky enough to come out with a couple accomplishments that many people like to take credit for. But today, I'm going to start by saying that I am equally disappointed and appalled by what happened, but I'm not at all surprised. I told y'all, I know many of you personally. Many, I've worked with you for years. And I told y'all my concerns with implementing this new West High administration. I told y'all we needed a person of color. We needed at least a person of color. We needed some things to go into this new era that we were coming out of, COVID and virtual learning. We needed support for our black students. I told you that. I expressed that to you. Matt, I expressed that to you. I told you I was leaving the district. And I am so proud of those students back there because those are the ones that are standing up for themselves. Okay? So in 2020, y'all met with IFR, you met with various people in the community to understand what we could do going forward. And I'm the co-chair of the equity committee, and I didn't know this was going on. I'm the co-chair of the equity committee, and all I could do was express that they could come here tonight. Many of them didn't know that this was an option. I told them to come here and express their voices because you obviously weren't hearing them. They had to leave class to protest and explain to you how they felt about the situations going on in the school. I climbed this bureaucracy ladder when I was in the 8th grade. I started my first committee, my first district committee in the 8th grade. All right, I worked with many of you, as I said, and I'm so disappointed with how this is going, because we have so much power here as a district. And me as a student, them as students, they shouldn't have to go through this. I started my first committee in the 8th grade, went only up from there to other committees, to the equity committee. And through all of that, I've expressed my concerns, and we've had great successes. All right, I'll put it that way. We had great successes, but there's so much more that we're ignoring behind the curtain. We're doing so much surface level work that it's not benefiting us. All right, like, I left Clear Creek because of a situation like this. Y'all know my story. I've expressed this to y'all multiple times. How many of us have to go through it before y'all get it? We are tired, and I hope you hear us now.
Final speaker, Sikowis Nobis?
Tansi, good evening. My name is Sikowis. I'm the Executive Director of Great Plains Action Society and a Commissioner on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And I'm here today to stand in solidarity with the Black community, because as an Indigenous person, I've been experiencing this institutionally sanctioned racial violence through the Iowa City School District for years. This doesn't just happen to be an issue about blackface, which is vile and disgusting. This is something that is so ingrained within this community that it's okay for children to come to school dressed in our regalia. It's okay to make fun of our history, to allow children and teachers to learn and teach racist tropes about Thanksgiving, about Columbus. It's okay to whitewash history in this school district. And so I'm here today because this is absolutely, sickening and horrifying to think that, there's not more being done. The curriculum in my son's textbook is a whitewashed history. It's not teaching what's really happened in this country. It's not teaching about, colonization, genocide, and enslavement, which is why so many of these kids, these white privileged kids, are getting away with what they're getting away with. They're not being taught the truth. There was a recent ban in Iowa on July 1st to ban diversity, equity, and inclusion training. And what it does is it basically disallows us from telling the truth about what's happening in the US, what the real history is here. This ban is also known as a ban on critical race theory, but really what it is it's a ban on teaching real history to students. It's a ban on anti-racism training. It's a ban on truth-telling. And so I really want, the city of Iowa City to push back against the white supremacist views of this Iowa administration right now that is putting forth these really horrific pieces of legislation, and be radical and teach the truth, because the truth will not be whitewashed. The truth cannot be whitewashed any longer. We need to teach these children what they are doing, and we need to teach it right. And if we push back against this particular ban and be radical and say to Kim Reynolds, no, you can't do this, this is our city, we are going to do what's right, then we will be doing the best thing we can be doing for these children. I mean, how is this okay? How have none of you done anything about any of these racist stereotypes that are still included within textbooks, within curriculum, within holiday celebrations? It's really got to stop, and I don't know. That's what I came here to say, is I stand in solidarity with the Black community and Indigenous peoples and all other BIPOC folks in this county and in this city, they deserve better.
Thank you very much. That's the end of community comments. I hear you that you shouldn't have to be here, but I'm very appreciative that you were. Thank you very much for your time. Will you?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I know we're not supposed to comment, but I do appreciate our students stepping forward to have your voices said and heard and calling us out for failing you continuously. Know that I will do my part to fight from within the system because Black lives matter, trans lives matter, queer lives matter, and we will fight from within to make changes for you all because it's not right.
Now we're going to move into our agenda. First up is just the approval of tonight's agenda. I would entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Kim?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Next up is our consent agenda. Did any directors have any questions as they reviewed the bills? I had one and sent it in, and you all saw the response to it, so I don't know if anybody had anything else they wanted to bring up. All right, are there any items to pull from the consent? All right, I would entertain a motion.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, Kim?
Online voting is open. Director Godwin or Director Williams?
I'm an aye.
Thank you.
I'm an aye as well, Kim.
Thank you.
We can wait a second here and Ruthina can vote.
I said I voted, but anyway, it's all right. I'm an aye.
The motion carries with Directors Godwin, Clausen, Eystone, Eastham, and Williams voting yea, and Director Malone not present at vote.
Next up is our public hearing, and I'm going to turn it over to Director Godwin.
Now is the time and place for the public hearing on the ICCSD 2022, 2023, 2023, 2024, 2024, 2025 district calendars. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive public input on the district's proposed 2022, 2023, 2023, 2024, 2024, 2025 school calendars. Are there any comments from the board?
Just want to make sure that these all 3 years have the extra dates added in that we've been discussing for the last.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Sean. There's now 3 different recognitions for different cultures in our school community in those, so there'd be 3 different days off in each of those 3 preceding years' calendars.
All right, thank you.
Are there any comments from the public?
All right, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you, Janet. We can move on down to policy review. I'll probably kick it over to Matt or the team. So there was, in the policy primer, there's some updates that came from ISB, I think, and from different changes to legislation and whatnot. And then I think that maybe that's what all the policy primer stuff is there, but I don't know if you want to hit some highlights, Matt.
Yeah, I think it's pretty, well, nothing too extensive to share there, Sean. You're right that they came from the policy primer from School Board Association, and so there's those suggested additions to those policies. The next item references the 200 series policies that would have been changes from the policy and governance meeting and some of the pieces we worked through there. So policy 213 would be one that we're still working to refine a little bit, and so you'll see a 200 series come back in that. It talks about public participation at board meetings and some of our conversations we've had through the beginning of the school year. So that would be the short overview of the policy piece, but if anybody has questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Matt, I noted that two of the policies having to do with student complaints and employee complaints, after the superintendent has made a decision on the complaint, the complainant can can ask the board to consider it too. Is that the same policy that we're going to use for other kinds of complaints in the district too? That is, that the superintendent's decision can be brought before the board if the board agrees to it?
There are certain situations that would entail a board hearing, Charlie. There's some protected portions in a teacher's negotiated agreement that if there was going to be some type of a termination hearing, that would come to the board. The student complaints and grievances really, I think, has to deal here with interpretation of policy. There's other situations like bullying and harassment complaints or level 1 investigations that if the investigator does those, there's really no recourse for appeal there because those are individuals trained in those investigations. And so it's a little bit situational. This one's a more broad policy here that speaks to concerns around the learning process and the board's response to some of their own policies. And if they feel like that admin team's misinterpreting those, that would be a question then that could be appealed to the board there. But I hope I gave you kind of a different example about some other things. Maybe one situation where it would come to you guys in a hearing type format and another one where it wouldn't really present for a hearing type situation. The board used to have an Appendix 6 process. That's no longer a part of this policy series. So that could be what's leading to a couple of those questions you might have.
Okay, all right, thanks. That actually is helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions on the policies? They should be coming back at the next meeting, I think, right, for adoption. All right, and then we'll be taking up the 300s at the next P&G meeting. All right, and if there's not further questions, let's go ahead and move on to our teaching and learning reports. Kicking it off to Amy, it looks like.
Yeah, thanks. Can you guys hear me okay? All right, good evening, everyone. Tonight we have several pieces of information to share with you, including the 2021 annual progress reports and several curriculum reports. In your binders, you have hard copies of both of these reports and placeholders for two other items that will be presented in upcoming board meetings. Those being the 22-23 program of studies during the next board meeting in November, and then the enrollment report, which will be presented in January. Diane, Nick, and I are going to provide a high-level overview of the APR and curriculum reports, and then we'll take questions. The teaching and learning team will help respond to these. And in giving a high-level overview, this is not meant to diminish any of the other items that were not highlighted this evening, and we're happy to provide you more information if you would like. Yeah, there we go. Thanks, Diane. The 2021 school year certainly proved to be a very unique one. Due to the COVID pandemic, the school district employed several instructional models under our Return to Learn plan. This included having students 100% off-site, 100% on-site, and a hybrid model, of course. During the school year, roughly a third of our students remained in the online program the entire year. It was also during this time that the district received full accreditation for our online learning program that we refer to as ICCSD Online. Tonight's presentation will include demographic information, achievement data, behavior statistics, the annual School Improvement Advisory Committee report, and the annual wellness report. Information will also be shared regarding curriculum review for art, general music, and performance music. As we are all aware, the certified enrollment numbers fell last year due to the pandemic. Our district was not unique in this pattern, and we saw this trend play out both statewide and nationwide. Many families chose to homeschool their students, and this was part of the drop that we saw as well. Our free and reduced price lunch rates fell slightly Two factors may include the drop in enrollment and the drop in completion rates of the free and reduced price lunch forms due to all meals being free for all students. As in recent years, our race and ethnicity numbers continue to change. The white student population decreased by 1%, while the minority population increased by 1%. The number of entitled individuals, or the percent of entitled individuals, remained the same as in the previous year, but it has increased over the past 5 years. Our English language learner population was actually 1,745 students. Our slide is wrong. It's accurate in the annual progress report. And it was down from a high of 1,836 students in the previous year. 558 students attended preschool last year, down from the previous year of 660. And we do have a goal to eventually have all of our 4-year-olds receiving a preschool experience. We would be remiss if we didn't give a nod to the other components contained in the first few pages of the report. You know, board member names, list of schools, mission and belief statements, student learning goals are all included there. And also, we want to make sure that we're highlighting the initial portrait of a graduate work that occurred last year. That occurred with our design team, and this team developed 6 core competencies that articulate our community's aspirations for all of our students. They include adaptability, communication, critical thinking, empathy, global citizens, and learner's mindset. Diane will now address academic achievement.
Good evening. So we'll start with the ISASP, the Iowa Statewide Assessment of Student Progress. That data is in the Teaching and Learning Report as well. If you remember that we took, ISASP was new in 2019, and then in 2020 we weren't able to administer it because of the school closure in the spring. So then we administered it again last year in 2021. In 2021, 84% of our students took ISAS on site, and about 16% took it remotely. And you will see some data discrepancies depending on how the state counts the data versus how we might count some of the data. The state doesn't include the students who took it remotely in some of their assessment measures, whereas we like to try to include all students whenever we can. We'll see some changes in some of the data that you might notice. Our lower grades, 3rd and 4th grade, tend to score just a little bit below the state average. But then as the students get older, in 5th grade, you start to see our students scoring at or above the state average. And then by 6th grade, you'll actually notice that our students in the highly proficient range start to even double the state average. So we know as students are with us, the longer they're with us, the better they tend to do. I think that also could be indicative of the percentage of English language learners that we have in our district, which is higher than the state average. It just takes a few years for those students as they enter our district to learn English as a second language, and their proficiency then tends to kick into gear a little bit later on. We do notice, though, that there was a drop in many of our scores from 2019 to 2021. And, you know, I think we can attribute that to quite a bit of the unusual school year that we had with the school closure in 2020, and then with the various learning models in 2020 versus to 2021. You'll also notice that we continue to have discrepant scores in many of our subgroups. We also included some ACT information. Our ACT 2021 graduates actually showed an increase from prior years, where they have more students who are meeting college-ready benchmarks. But again, we see a discrepancy, particularly with our Black and African American students that aren't scoring as high as our white students or our Asian students. We included some FAST data. FAST is showing as well a dip in reading in most grade levels when compared to 2019. Math scores seem to remain fairly steady, other than our 1st and 2nd grade students who also dipped in math scores as well. And then we included junior high FAST scores in the data as well. I don't think we're surprised to see some of the dips that we're showing, but I think we're encouraged that they aren't huge dips, that they certainly seem to be ones that we will be able to recover from. And given the fact that we can have a great year of education, hopefully, throughout this school year, and next year it may take us a little while to recover, but I think we're well positioned to do so. We're reporting numbers in our report here, our APR, on the numbers of students who are taking college prep courses, such as AP courses, University of Iowa courses, and Kirkwood courses. AP continues to remain kind of the main avenue for our students to take college preparatory courses, and our students do very well, with 75% of them scoring a 3 or above on ACT tests, which will earn them college credit at many of their universities. That's kind of an overview there of some of our data, academic data. We did try in this report to provide more disaggregated data than we had in the past. Let's see, we're going to go on to, I think, Nick with student behavior.
Can I ask a question,
You bet.
Diane, real fast? In terms of the disaggregation, I see that you noted the kids who took the test online versus in person. Are we able to disaggregate, though, by students who were in the online learning program last year versus students who were in the hybrid or in school? I mean, it'd be interesting, especially even this year, when we start trying to look at trend data year over year, we still have students in the online learning program. I just think that mode of learning is a really important factor to consider in terms of the achievement kids are obtaining.
I think our struggle with looking at that last year is we had so many kids who flipped models throughout the school year, so we didn't pull that data. Michelle Croft was looking at some of that information, but not through ISASP. We certainly will be able to do that this year with the online learning program being kind of its own program. We'll get some specific data to that building by itself.
It would be super interesting, but especially with those gaps that you were talking about, if they were predominantly for online learning kids versus students who were in a classroom. I mean, it's really, if there's a way to parse that data and get at it, it'd be useful for our district, and also, I think, sort of helpful for just a larger dialogue around is online learning an effective program, or how do you make it more engaging and more effective for students, that kind of thing. So,
yeah, I'll see if the tech team can maybe work on that.
All right, and thank you. I have the opportunity to talk about some of our behavior data, and as you can imagine, as we've referenced a few times, with students being in a variety of different models throughout the year, I mean, it kind of impacts that total number, so that way the 2021 year almost sits as a little bit of an outlier with not having many of our kids on campus. We were seeing those positive trends of reductions in both suspensions and office referrals over the course of time, but I think it's just a matter of, hot mic. I think this year will be a better indicator of where we're at and looking at that in comparison to the previous 4 years. Some great work that was going on that was also indicated in here is related to the PBIS and rethinking school discipline work, continuing to work on that disproportionality that we're concerned about within some of our behavior data, and just looking at just a variety of next steps that can continue for us to be looking at there. So next year, as we look at that behavior data, I think we'll have a better sense of, are we still seeing some of those positive trends that we've had over the past few years? And then the next piece is actually just one of our meetings that we continue to have to hold related to the annual SIAC committee meeting. We met in April via Zoom and had the opportunity to look at the strategic plan and then the diversity, equity, inclusion plan, and get some feedback from the members of the team and pass that along. So that also is highlighted within this time. And I think I'm turning it back over to Amy to touch base on wellness.
Yeah, and tonight we were hoping that Kate Callahan and Jess Demerson could be here to share that annual wellness report this evening, but as many of you may suspect, they've been helping out with the vaccination clinic that was being held tonight at Kirkwood Elementary. The full report can be found on pages 48 through 50, and if you have questions, we can sure answer those for you in the future there. Diane's going to talk next about the curriculum reports.
All right, so first of all, I wanted to absolutely recognize all the people who helped participate in our curriculum reviews this last year. We had several curriculum reviews. Art general music, performance music, and social studies were all completed in 2021. And our curriculum coordinators are here tonight to answer any questions about those that you might have. So I for sure would like to recognize Sarah Fairfield and John Welch, who oversaw the music performance reviews, April Kelly and Christian Onnested, who oversaw art, and then Brady Shutt, who oversaw the social studies. Brady presented to you his curriculum review back in March, or in the end of May, actually. And then the other ones are presented tonight. And then we are hard at work on our next ones. So PE and counseling, social emotional learning are going to be completed this year. So wanted to thank all the committee members and particularly the coordinators for organizing this. It was different because it was done virtually. Brady kind of led us off with a great model for how to conduct these in a virtual format, and the other coordinators kind of followed suit. Just some of the overview highlights of those. I think on all the reviews that I've been on since I've been here, we've noticed that when we review our mission and belief statements, we just hadn't 8 years ago, 10 years ago when these were conducted. We hadn't include diversity or inclusivity or culturally responsiveness in those mission statements or belief statements. And that has come to the forefront on every curriculum review. So we've made sure that those are now included in our reviews. And then I think you'll see in all of their action plans a very explicit, intentional effort to be more culturally responsive and inclusive of all students. So one small example, I know our performance music really made a conscious effort to think about the barriers that elementary students face in attending rehearsals for ensembles in the way that we had been doing them in the past, where they had to go to another building, get transportation after school. So this year, we are trying a different format where our beginning band and beginning orchestra students are taking ensembles at their school. So the rehearsal is during school time in the morning, so kids don't have to travel, and we have seen a huge increase in the numbers of kids who are participating in band and orchestra, so much that Les and I got a nice little email from John Welch saying he needs some money because he needs to buy some more instruments and he needs to buy more music and more reeds for all these kids that are taking music. So that's just one small example, I think, of an immediate outcome that we have based on these reviews that we're doing.
So Diane, so that change was simply because we changed the number of buildings that kids could participate in band and orchestra?
Right, so it used to be that the kids who were participating, they could do band lessons at their school, but then in order to come together in an ensemble,
groups,
they
yeah,
would have to travel to another school, often to a junior high, because they were the ones who had a bigger band room or a bigger orchestra room. They'd have to travel there to do the ensemble. Well, we would lose kids. They would maybe participate in the lessons, but they couldn't get transportation to and from the rehearsal, and then they would eventually drop band or orchestra. So what we've changed now is to having smaller ensembles at the building site in the morning, usually from 7:45 to 8:30, so they're missing just a little bit of morning meeting once a week or so, but that has really increased our numbers.
Oh, great, that was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Okay, so that puts us at the last slide, which is questions. And again, just a very high-level overview of a 55-page document. I'm happy to take any questions.
I'd like to go back to maybe Nick can respond to this. Again, we're looking at behavior data yearly, and I think, I've indicated, and I think other board members indicated, we want to try to do that more often. We're going to be able to do that this year?
I can take that one, Charlie.
Okay, sorry, okay.
Yeah, so next week at the Board Education Committee meeting, we intend to share our data that we're seeing so far this year. Our office referral data, we'll share that out. We're going to share it to the extent of what we're asking our buildings to look at on a monthly basis, which is, which type of events are happening, where's the most often are the locations that they're happening, time of day, things like that. So we're going to give you a pretty good look next week of what we're seeing in our data so far this year. And we're also going to couple that with information from Laura Daly's department, Laura Gray's department, and Kate Callahan's department on items that they're working on specifically to support behavior.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question on that with behavior. Are we going to have a way to kind of understand, so the effectiveness of the restorative practices? I mean, right, we're not going to count suspensions. So how can we sort of track that and kind of understand, from a data perspective, kind of the impact of that, kind of where it's practiced versus where it's not being practiced? I guess I'm not even sure what that would look like.
Yeah, so when Laura talks next week, she can talk to you about our approach of the professional development that we've brought so far the first few months of the school year. And we're working with 10 buildings. We initially started with the larger staff and kind of quickly realized we need to regroup a little bit and maybe just start with the administrators. And so that's what's happened in the last month or so. There's been a 2-day retreat for the 10 buildings that are involved, their administration, and that'll be part of what Laura talks to you about next week. But you ask a good question. Because the other thing is, just because we're doing it in those 10 buildings doesn't mean that we don't have interest in the other buildings also participating in that, and or other buildings have had staff members in the past, through grassroots efforts and efforts on Laura's department's behalf to attend restorative practices or justice training that they have offered at nights or on the weekends. Right now we're trying to bring to the district a more standardized approach to implementation. But you asked a good question. I think it's going to be really hard over time to parse that data out, knowing that there is more grassroots things happening beyond those 10 buildings.
Thanks.
Got a lot of silence over here. Did you have something else, JP?
So yeah, I do. So,
Okay,
so
ahead.
when we're looking at, when we look at our academic data, right, and we have our FAST scores, how, that's something we can see from this high level view, but then how granular does that get on the individual student level? What other data points are we pulling in? Because proficiency is such a broad brush. I don't think that tells us very much, and those numbers don't change. So then what further data do we capture to understand, kind of where those gaps are, and then how to kind of target students, who aren't meeting the proficiency standard?
So I'll take it, and then I'll have Diane add to that. So just a reminder that when our students fall out as non-proficient on the universal screener, which they're getting 3 times a year, when they fall out as non-proficient, by law, K-3, you have to at least be progress monitoring them on a weekly basis. Well, we go the extra step and try to add that intervention right away. So they're getting their core instruction plus the intervention, progress monitoring it once a week. And we've extended that case pattern K-6, not just in our K-3 classrooms. From there, we like to do diagnostic tests to further drill down to what specific skills are the students needing. And we use screeners called the PASI, and I'm forgetting the other one, Diane. The PSI for those early foundational reading skills. So those are some examples of some diagnostic tests that we give. Diane, would you add any other tests that we might give for further diagnostics?
Area of math, we would give some math diagnostic tests as well. And it just kind of depends on which intervention they're selecting to use.
And how long have we been doing all of that?
Ooh. The K-3 legislation has probably been around now for 7, 8 years. For 8 years. I'd say the intent of the progress monitoring then is, we like to look at anywhere from 6 to probably 9 data points to see if the interventions that we're implementing are having an impact, right? We don't want to pull an intervention away too early. The other question that we ask ourselves is, are we implementing that intervention with fidelity? And so we've got some flow charts, and if you think of our big school improvement process that we fall back to, it's called differentiated accountability. What the state has provided to us is different protocols and instruments for us to look at to make sure that we're doing those sorts of things. So when you hear me from time to time, or Diana and I working through the instructional design strategist, elementary principal meeting once a month, those are the kinds of tools and instruments that are put in front of the teams for them to consider if their students are not making progress.
And then so I guess my biggest concern is the numbers, isn't moving. It just seems to be very flat. And I would imagine that we're not alone in that. So then what? That's a lot more granular. We're looking, at a lot more data, but there doesn't seem to be, it's very flat from, a decade ago or whatever. So I guess that is a question. Is that consistent across the state? Are there districts where we're seeing them close these opportunity gaps in some significant ways? And then what more can we do, rather than, more testing? I mean, I guess, what are we doing on the intervention side? And why isn't it working?
I know. I think the other element I want to just bring to our attention is that we can't always intervene our way out of a situation that we're in. And when we are looking at some percentages here that are, 50%, 60% proficient, that's a core instruction problem. That is a problem with our core instruction. And when we go back to the information that the state has given us, when we look at our universal core instruction, they give us building blocks to look at. And the very first building block is, are you providing 90 minutes of reading instruction every day? And we didn't last year, right? I mean, with all the models we were in and out of last year, that very first building block, that was really challenging for us to be able to do that. So it's not, I guess, too surprising that we're seeing lower numbers this year, because we weren't able to provide that. The second building block is, when and we are this year, providing that 90 minutes. In fact, we do 120 minutes for our K through 4th grade students. Then it's, how are you using those 120 minutes? So you go in and you can do a time audit to say, yeah, it says you're using, 2 hours of reading instruction, but when I walk in, what are the kids really doing? How are they engaged? That whole kind of thing. So we really are trying to get our teachers or our principals and IDS tomorrow, in fact. We are spending a lot of our morning as we're doing our professional development with them, focusing back on core instruction, back on the building blocks, back on our accelerated learning templates that we provided to teachers, which show, as you're getting to skills, if kids don't have prerequisite skills, what can you do in core instruction to meet those needs as well? Looking at some of the other intervention tools we're using, Lexia and Dreambox, that can be part of core instruction as well. So we have really focused, I think, in the last 5-6 years on getting our intervention model perfect. And I think we need to also now focus back on core instruction and what we're providing for all kids.
Thanks.
I guess I'd maybe try to follow up a little bit on JP's line of interest here. So Diane, you mentioned 5 or 6 years of getting the intervention stuff done, or the number of minutes and so forth. Still over 5 or 6 years, we didn't. I think JP is. I agree with him. We didn't see proficiency data change very much for Black and Hispanic students. So what are we? I guess the question has to be, if we start looking at adding something to what we've been doing for the last 5 years, should I expect to see those proficiency percentages increase for Hispanic and Black students?
I think one of the pieces that we emphasized last year through the professional development that Laura Gray was offering was culturally responsive teaching. And so that's another element that we've tried to bring to the staff to talk about relationships, making sure that our standards are still rigorous. And, sometimes with the thinking that we have the best of intentions to maybe slow down the curriculum or go back down to those prerequisite skills and instead of scaffolding up to the grade level skills, like that's what Zaretta Hammond in her culturally responsive teaching compels us to do. And so that's the type of professional development that we're bringing. But it requires such a multifaceted approach. And when I think about the building blocks that Diane was referring to before, she was talking about time. Those 6 building blocks also ask us to make sure that we're teaching grade level standards. It talks about the materials that should accompany those grade level standards. It talks about an assessment in there. Help me out, Diane, with the other form of assessment in there. So it's a multifaceted approach. I think the newer element that we have brought to the staff, though, is this idea of culturally responsive teaching. At the elementary level, we have several of our buildings and continuing that work this year by revisiting that book through book studies. So I think that's another element that we've tried to employ to help support our students as well.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, bear with me. I'm having trouble talking. But I just want to take a moment to thank the coordinators for the curriculum review. I worked with several of you on, I think all of them almost, but I have been part of those meetings, and I know how much you all paid attention to trying to eliminate stereotypic tropes, racism, and trying to make our programs more accessible, especially performance music, because doing a lot of those meetings right before COVID hit, we talked about that. My only concern is that it happens on an 8-year cycle. So I know a lot of you personally, and I know I probably don't have to say this, but I want to say it publicly. Continue to speak up when you see things changing that we as a district need to act on instead of waiting for your cycle, because I know all of you do use your voices. I want to encourage you to constantly use your voice. If for some reason we have to look at the 8-year cycle or get together and make changes, know that that's important to make sure we're providing our students with the best education possible. So thank you again for all the work that you guys put into that.
A comment too. Thanks for the work and the reports. I think I'm still really processing the comments from the students tonight, and all of the speakers. And one of the points, you know, we've got building blocks, we've got interventions, we've got standards we have to adhere to, we've got all the curriculum review that we do. But the point is, if students are not feeling safe or comfortable in their learning environment, if they're tired, if they're mad, if they're disappointed, if they're afraid, it's going to be really hard to get good learning going on, regardless of the interventions and the curriculum work and all the best intentions of all of the educators. And so I think, you know, really trying to focus on that culture piece, the fairness, the social justice piece, helping all of our students feel safe, might go a really long way to helping improve our educational outcomes. So I'm just, you know, everything we're talking about tonight is just filtering through the lens of all the speakers that we heard earlier, and the trauma and the anger that everyone's feeling, and rightfully. And so I think if we can fix some of those things, I think we're going to see improved student outcomes.
And I hope we'll have a more thorough discussion about what we've heard tonight. Maybe not at this point in the agenda, but soon, either tonight or soon after tonight.
And I'm looking at we have 2 data points on this test, right? The ISAPS test from pre-COVID, and I really wish I could say post-COVID, but middle of COVID. And so I'm trying to pick out little tidbits that you can get from, you know, 2 data points. And generally, looks like language arts generally scores better than math, usually, but it looks like math, like the disparity got bigger between those 2 pieces. To Janet's point earlier, I don't know how much of that is online instruction versus in person. I could see how math needs a more personal touch at times, so that kind of stood out. I think Diane mentioned it, there definitely does seem to be a trend that we get better and better with the older grades, so perhaps the longer we have them, the better we do. The one thing that stood out to me as the real outlier on all of it, in a good way, is I'm looking at the 7th and 8th grade language arts, and most places we went down, right, from 2019. But in that one, FRO did better, IEPs did better, Black and African American did better, Hispanic did better, white students did worse, and just kind of overall they did worse because we're mostly white. But that stood out, that all of those subgroups in that one area did better when everything else kind of went down. And I don't know if there's anything we can glean from that, because, you know, that's what we're trying to do. Obviously, we didn't want everybody else to go down. We want them all to do better, but that one just stood out to me as an interesting case that we haven't been able to accomplish everywhere else. Has anybody looked at that, or did it stand out to anyone else? It's interesting to me.
I did notice that, yeah.
Are there other questions or comments from directors on this? Looking around. All right. Thanks, everyone, for the hard work and the reports. I know that there's a lot of folks kind of anxiously awaiting getting the data out there. You know, we got quite a few emails from parents and trying to digest it all, and, you know, are rightfully concerned about learning loss, as you all are. So I appreciate being able to have a chance to look at it and get it out there.
One quick question. Amy, you mentioned an enrollment report, but I didn't catch when you said we were going to get that.
We're preparing that right now for January.
For January, okay, thanks.
Let's go ahead and move on to our next presentation, which is our quarterly financial report.
Actually, I have the next two items.
Yeah, you want to take them together?
And so I kind of like to take them together and actually take 3 before 2, if you will do that. Just because 3 looks back more at how fiscal year 21 ended, and the quarterly report is building then more towards the future. So kind of take them a little bit more in chronological order. And as Amy and Diane and Nick talked about, COVID kind of impacted the financials in a way as well. And provided some differences or even some positive things in the trend. So I'm going to kind of walk through a couple of those things. On the comparison report that's provided, virtually everything is trending in the right direction. The only thing would be the special ed deficit, really, that I would highlight there. And as I shared with you at a previous meeting when I asked you to approve the resolution to the SBRC, that's due to the Medicaid revenues being down, just because we couldn't serve kids. Some of them weren't actually in the buildings to be served, or just because of the protocols for health and safety couldn't provide some of those things, that resulted in a reduction in those revenues. On the financial health report, again, most of those trends are also positive. A couple less significant ratios in there. The days net cash ratio went down, and that's due to our technology purchases funded with ESSER funds that was paid in June, brought our cash down. That was subsequently replenished with our claims made after June 30th. That shot our our receivable ratio up, because that was all recorded as a receivable. So a little technical on the accounting side there, but a couple ratios that were directly impacted by a couple of our COVID expenditures. You'll also note the employee cost ratio dropped slightly, or was actually a slight improvement, and a lot of that has to do with that large technology purchase, reduce the portion that's employee cost. I really do expect that to go up next year for 2 reasons. We won't have the technology, but number 1, a lot of our ESSER funds are going to academic supports and some of those similar type positions that are people as well. So we will get back to that 85%. I'm pretty confident that have run pretty regularly in the school district. The foundation aid ratio is also down, and that has to do with the amount of the foundation aid that's factored into the revenue. Well, it's because those federal revenues from ESSER are way up this year. So just kind of all a combination of those COVID things, as well as then the ESSER funds that were provided that. And our solvency ratio and our unspent balance also did improve this year, and some of that does have to do with some of those ESSER funds coming in and how we were able to utilize those. That's kind of the closeout for fiscal 21. We do have the approval of the LEP cost. They have not finalized the portal yet at the DE, hopefully yet this week, and so I expect to have that resolution to you at the next board meeting that will factor in and finalize 21. And then the first board meeting in January, we anticipate having the audit report. So those will be the kind of the last 2 pieces for fiscal 21. So I'll pause there if there's anybody that has a question on anything thus far. Hearing none, I'll move right into the quarterly report. You know, there is a table in there that has some tax information and where we rank in the state, and some other kind of key ratios. The one that we talk about and have talked about for a number of years is our net open enrollment position. That's on page 4, and you'll notice that that gap has narrowed significantly this year. I don't want to get overly optimistic that that's a permanent change. I believe our online program has helped attribute to that. We have 60 less kids open enrollment out of the district this year, so that means those kids are back in our seat. We're educating them. Plus, we have about 100 more open enrollments in, so that's a swing of about 160 students. That's very good from a cash perspective, not so much from a certified enrollment perspective as we build the budget moving forward. So while we have more kids that we're actually serving here, both some of them our own and some from other districts, just caution whether that continues post-COVID with the online program. You know, if we knew that answer, it would certainly help us in a lot of ways with the online program staffing and everything else. So just a word of caution if you've noticed that one looking a lot better. Then the other one is the comparison to other districts that's heat coded. I know that's not Charlie's favorite graph on there, and you will notice that those are fiscal year 20 numbers. The Department of Ed hasn't released the fiscal 21 numbers, and IASB has not summarized all of that data. So when that becomes available, that will get updated for fiscal 21 and be more comparative. Fiscal 22, the advanced funding and English for those students that are been served for more than 5 years in our program. Those resolutions for you to approve will be at the next board meeting as well. Those provide spending authority for the district. Both of those will be positive numbers and will be in excess of the estimates that we have in the model now. Those just became available late last week, so this information had already been prepared before those became finalized. So we'll get those built into future reports, as well as environmental hazards and our first-year staffing costs for the online program that we can also go to the SBRC. We've regularly done that in prior years and will continue to do that this year. Those will probably come in early January when all of those numbers become finalized. So a couple other things for you to note that will impact the unspent balance and will take board action. You'll also may notice that fiscal 23 is showing about a 3% increase in costs, and that's higher than what we've seen in the past. And a lot of that has to do with our staff costs. What we're hearing is we are no different than almost every other industry and business in having trouble finding workers. And to get workers to come back, in many cases, it's going to take more money or more benefits or something of that nature. It's going to become a competitive market. I don't think school districts are going to be able to avoid that as well. And so what we're hearing is that that may tick up next year or even a couple years. And so that's why we've adjusted that to 3% to kind of give that some thought now as we move forward into that season. You will notice that our supplemental growth is left at 1.5%. We do have several years of 2% or slightly over 2%. And in talking to Larry Siegel at some budget projection meetings in the last couple of weeks, he doesn't anticipate more than 2% for next year because the legislature has given a signal that even though they're sitting on massive cash amounts and their pots are all full in Des Moines, so to speak, that their signal is tax cuts to use some of those funds. And so he believes, as a longtime lobbyist and working through school finance, that that's going to be their focus, and schools are not going to get a big piece of that pot. So we have left those at 1.5% to keep that most conservative approach, and when 2% gets passed, we'll plug that in, but we want to stay conservative, and we haven't changed our enrollment projections much just because we're still trying to figure out where we're at coming out of the COVID. You know, we went down 286 students last year from a certified enrollment. We've recovered about 111 of those this year in our certified enrollment. It's tough to tell. At a meeting I was at last week with about 300 school districts, so many districts that expected an increase in students had a decrease and those that were expecting decreases had increases. And we're talking small districts where they know every person that moves in and out of town still was having those slight adjustments to their enrollment. So, you know, it's hard for us in Iowa City to keep track of almost 15,000 kids. So it's a little bit tougher here, but we are working on some demographer projections to try to help us moving forward. So we continue to stay conservative on that revenue side and on that growth side on that. So with that, I'll entertain any other questions on this report.
Les, and I don't know if this is sort of the right place to ask this, but at the university, we're seeing issues with supply and demand, and costs for certain things that we need in order to do our business has just went up so high. Are we starting to see that, and if so, how is that factoring into our overall budget?
We are starting to see some increases, primarily in paper and in some books that get purchased. But if you recall that 85% of our budget is our staff costs, our utilities and transportation, well, our utilities may be going up because of natural gas going up. We do have made efforts there to try to control that with some of the work done by the facilities team in upgrading all of our buildings through facility master plan, et cetera. So that helps with that to some degree. So the portion of our budget that is related to some of those variables with the supply chain and supply demand is much smaller than many organizations, and so there will be some impact, and as we see those, we'll continue to factor those in. I do know that that is impacting our nutrition services program in terms of being able to access that. I don't think Allison's here tonight to address that, but you know, just getting in some of the food items to serve is a challenge on a daily basis, and adjust the menus, and you may be hearing that or seeing that from, you know, families and stuff. Oh, the menu's changing. Well, if you don't get the chicken nuggets, you can't serve the chicken nuggets, type of thing. And so we're you know, working through that, and Allison is working through that very diligently and working with the suppliers and the commodities and to use those. So.
Plus, the one piece I'd add is the one we talked about at Ops Committee, that as we look at moving forward with some of the new projects, the cost associated with construction, and Jeff, if you want more detail, can go into it, but we're seeing those go up or continue. And so as we look at when we bid projects or how we bid them, that could impact on the dollars available. And so I know Leslie's accounting for that too. You did a nice job talking about it earlier, but Rethina, to your point, I think that's something we have to look at going forward as well.
Thank you.
Other questions, directors? Must mean you did a good job, Les. Let's go ahead and move on to our next item, our 21-22 school year discussion. Matt, you can lead us off?
Yeah, thanks. Tonight we wanted to follow up on the conversation you prompted last week a little bit, President Eystone, around knowing that vaccines are now available for 5 to 11-year-olds. What would be the involvement of our health and safety protocols, specifically the mask requirement. So the team has worked to put something together for consideration. We did also want to update you a little bit on some of the vaccination clinics that are going on. So I know Chase has some information on that as well, but just in summary, you know, you've seen our communications come out to the district around those vaccine sites that the Visiting Nurses Association is hosting on our campuses. It's their clinic, but we're partnering with them to have it on our campuses, and I think we had about close to 400 students yesterday that attended that, and maybe not as many this evening, but that's where some of the team is at tonight. They were working at those clinics during this portion of the meeting. So a good start there, and I know that UIHC has reported some high participation numbers. I think we heard close to 2,000 in their first few days of the 5 to 11-year-old population. So we feel like we're making good progress there, and then the next natural evolution, I think, in the conversation, like you guys asked about, is what do we do with our health and safety protocols as we continue to have the vaccine increased availability. So So Chase is going to walk you through just a little bit. Again, it's a starting place. Don't want people to think that we're presenting this as like this is the recommendation of necessarily what to move forward with, but a starting place for the conversation, because we know that this was a new piece for us here at this last meeting, and then just something we've worked on as a team to bring forward to you here this evening. So Chase, go ahead.
Thanks, Matt. Good evening. Just to add to what Matt shared about our vaccine clinics, tonight we had our third at Kirkwood. We had Weber and Grant yesterday, 3 of 10. And Matt's correct, about 400 last night, another 125 tonight. So we're proud to announce that we've been able to facilitate over 500 of our littles getting the vaccine so far. And so we look forward to more participation this week and next week. A thank you to our nurses who continue just to be rock stars. The VNA is hosting, but our nurses have stepped in to help provide shots for littles at these clinics. Jeff's team did an awesome job of creating basically temporary little offices so that the parents and the child can go in and have some privacy while they're getting the shot, and so it's been great. It's nice to be able to be out in the buildings and interact with our families as they get the vaccine. And so if folks are looking for it, we have 7 more clinics coming up, and that information is available on the website. And after we go over this, I'm happy to take questions on the clinics or on this document. Uh-oh, Kim. Oh, we're good. Okay. I'm just going to X out of here. Sorry, Adam. All right. Maybe. I'm trying. Okay, so as Matt alluded to, that following up on the conversation, we wanted to present to you this evening just a very preliminary draft framework of some of our thinking about maybe what we would look like and what we would look at in terms of how we would determine when we would have masks required in our buildings. Now, you can see the date at the top. We're not talking until at least January 2022, because as vaccines have just become available to our littlest students, we need about 6 weeks in order for that entire cycle to take place so that they have the full benefit of the vaccine. So we're not talking about tomorrow or even the beginning of December. This is all after winter break. And we're looking at a couple of different criteria, and we communicated with a number of our colleagues around the state in the UEN about different factors they're looking at, and this is what a majority of the groups are taking into account. There are local transmission rates measured through the CDC and some of the things that we followed recently. You see that there on the left-hand column, so the COVID transmission rate in Johnson County, looking at the different levels of low, moderate, and high, and then looking at, okay, what are actually the percentage of positive COVID individuals in our buildings? We intentionally left those blanks for what we'd consider low, moderate, high, because we want to have some discussion with you as the board about where we want to set those different factors. So as you look at that chart, we would look at both what the transmission rate is in the county and then what the number of positives in our buildings. Right now, today in Johnson County, our transmission level is high, and it's been that way for a significant period of time. And so we'd be looking at that bottom row, and really 2 options. If the count of positive cases in our buildings is low, masks would be recommended but optional. But if it was moderate or high, masks would continue to be required. And so if this is something the board would want to consider about how we would start looking at when we would require masks in our schools, we would need to figure out, okay, what are those percentage breaks going to be in terms of how we would look at that. By way of example, if the quick math, if we have an elementary school of 400 students, to have 1%, we would need 4 kids to be COVID positive, and so on as we go up. One reason we're looking at it by school rather than across the entire district, what we've learned is that sometimes the outbreaks are more local or in a specific area, either a school or part of the district. The other piece of that is consider if we went as a percentage of the entire district. At 14,000 students, in order to get above 2%, we'd have to have 280 or more students be positive at one time. We've never had 280 students positive at one time. And so it kind of changes that discussion and that narrative about how we look at providing those health and safety guidance, along with some flexibility for all of our families in the district. And so we're not tied to any percentages. We do want to engage the board in some conversation around that, but this is that framework that we would start to look at, and we continue to try to build out if it's something the board would be interested in. pause there.
So what does the Health and Safety Committee say about the percentages per building?
We've not engaged the full committee yet, Charlie. Jess Jimerson did a lot of the work on this and talked to some of her colleagues around the state, and the percentages vary. Waterloo, I think, is at below 3% for low, 3 to 5% for moderate, and over 5% for high. They're kind of all in that area, but we've not talked to, we've not pulled the committee yet. We brought it here to make sure we were on the right track before we brought that group together to get some feedback. If you look at the CDC website, right, they actually have 4 categories: low, moderate, substantial, and high. But the low category for the CDC is actually 5% or less. That's where that threshold is, and we know we're not recommending that below 5% be our low category. But to put it in context about what we're talking about as compared to what they're looking at from a CDC lens, that's what the CDC considers low transmission.
Do you have any data on what buildings are now?
We do. We can get that to the board if the board would like to see that. Kristen and I did a little bit of analysis and looked at that. We think that our quick review showed that the highest any one building has been about 2.2 or 2.3% positivity rate since we started tracking it. Any one building at a single time.
And that's just actual positive cases?
Yes.
I know you kind of talked to, so the left side, the low, moderate, high for transmission level, that's positivity rate, or what is that number? Where are we getting that number from?
That's the one that we're pulling directly from the CDC or the Iowa COVID site, which pulls the same different information. So that's what the county is reporting as their transmission rate, and then going into the CDC's algorithm, what they determine whether it's that low, moderate, substantial, or high category. And so we're pulling that designation directly from what the CDC shares as the county's percentage. And they look at a variety of factors. They don't only look at the transmission level, but they also look at number of new cases per, I think, 100,000. So there's a couple of factors embedded in that transmission level.
Yeah, that's that data tracker site that we're all
That's that
familiar
data
with,
tracker
right? So it's
piece.
got those 4 categories.
Trying
We've been
to-
red for
trying
like
to
4 months. Yeah.
Merge the idea of the 4 levels turning into 3 levels, but in the end, your second and third level have the same stuff on it, so you really only have 2 levels, right?
One edit we were going to make, Sean, was to put the moderate / substantial. We just didn't get to it, but that would encompass the 2 categories. Like you're saying, I mean, there's only so much differentiation you can do there with masks either being recommended but optional or masks required. So, yeah, I mean, you don't have essentially all of those different measures to take as far as an in-between.
Yeah, I mean, we're playing in theoreticals, right? It's a lot of causation and correlation, right? Do we have current low rates because we have masks? Or do we have low rates because we have low rates and then don't need masks, right? And then we don't know until we get rid of masks and then start having higher rates. So it's a hard one to slap specific numbers on based on our historical data, right? Because the vast majority of the time we've had a mask mandate, right? So it's a hard one for me to figure out what those numbers should be in those blanks, because just looking at our past data, I don't know necessarily
And I
tells
think-
me what they should be.
And I think the point you just made is also why we think something like this that provides us some flexibility is a better approach than saying, we're just going to get rid of the mask requirement and go back to
Right.
recommended. Because you're right, there are some unknown or different variables. Now, if you take away masks, well, you also haven't had vaccines for all of our students, which we
Right.
now have. And so we don't know how that's going to play out in it either. But your point, you're right. We are kind of trying to feel our way through of, okay, what should those percentage breaks be? Charlie's question was a good one. That 2.2 or 2.3, I believe came from a day at the beginning of the year when we couldn't require masks, which that would make sense, especially as we brought all our kids back to school, there were no masks. But we can get that data to let you look historically about how that's ebbed and flowed and where those have been, if you think that would help inform the conversation of where we would want to set those percentage breaks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much we're actually going to know. You know, it's a lot of correlation going on. I don't think we're really able to pinpoint. I think we, you know, to me, it's we're being protective. We want to be as safe as we can be, and so err on the side of requiring masks. But if we, you know, once we come back in January and folks have been vaccinated, and hopefully we see these numbers continue to grow, then I think it makes a lot of sense if we're, you know, 0 to 1% or, you know, whatever the number. And yeah, I think landing on a hard number is going to be very, very difficult. I would be comfortable saying 5% is high like that.
I agree.
Sure, yeah. But for us, you know, maybe that's 3%. But again, I think there's just so many factors at play. I think this is good, right? We want to give people want to know what's you know, the magic number. There's no magic number, but we are trying to come up with some guidance to give people an idea of where we're headed. So I'm not going to be able tonight to say, oh, I know what that high and moderate and low is.
And that wouldn't be our ask. You know, I think we want to show it to you this evening so you can think about it. Bring it back at the second meeting in November, probably, you know, post it so it's out there officially so we can get some feedback. But before we did that, we wanted to make sure that this was in the ballpark of what the board would like us to consider, or do you want us to go back and look at a potentially different set of criteria of when we would make these decisions. I don't know exactly what those would be off the top of my head, so I put that out there. But again, don't want to bring something forward that we don't think is workable as we look to the next, you know, edition of our health and safety protocols.
You know, the only data point that would be really hard, really kind of hard science for me would be the percentage of people vaccinated. You know, and I know that we're not maybe necessarily going to know that, but because people probably don't have to tell us if they get vaccinated, I suppose. But that would be the only point that would.
Well,
we know it as a countywide number.
JP, that's going to be another discussion that we're going to have, because if you followed anything coming out of OSHA, that requirement is going to be there, and we've gotten some guidance even today that very well likely might apply to the school district, and so we are going to have that conversation about. Now that's for adults, right? That's for employees, not for students. I think you're talking more about students.
I am, yeah.
But I don't want to just say, no, that can't happen, because it's probably another conversation we're going to have.
Yeah, so that would be a data point for me that would make, where I'd just feel a lot more secure if we're in these low. And frankly, I do appreciate we're looking at Johnson County, and we're looking at by building. I think that's the way to go. And then for me, it would just be percentage of people vaccinated that would factor in to maybe determine what those numbers should be.
Just on that, we won't get it broken down by building, but the county has always kept track of percentage of people vaccinated in age range groups. So, I anticipate that we will have data on X percentage of 5 to 11-year-olds in Johnson County got vaccinated. I would hope that we're going to get that. And I agree, if we could get more detailed data, it would be, but it's something, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It plays into it, for sure.
I really like that we're pegging this by building. I think, if Penn is having an outbreak, there's no reason to require masks at Southeast. They're just so building specific. And I think like everyone who has already spoken, I'm a little bit hesitant about how we pick those numbers that are going to go across the x-axis. That seems the trickiest part. I almost wonder, and I get wanting to provide hard numbers for the public to understand the graph, but at the same time, I think that the building staff and the teachers on the ground, when there's an outbreak going on, just have such a better sense of, has this specific group of kids been consistently wearing masks correctly? Or are we more at risk because a bunch of them aren't? And we need to tamp down a little bit more because this is a serious situation. Or these kids are rock stars with their masks. They're consistent, they're over their nose. And so we have maybe one COVID positive kid at a small school or two, like Man or Shimmick or Lincoln, just because those are low. So those percentages will look higher. But if the building staff feels comfortable that everyone's been safe and that we're not going to see building spread, giving them some flexibility somehow in calling the mask. But I also know that that's super hard because then we're not providing guidelines to the community. But I think realistically, giving flexibility to our buildings is the best way to implement our continued use of masks. I am slightly concerned about just making sure that it's communicated to parents, right? So there's a possibility, right? For 2 weeks we wear masks, and then 3 weeks we're off, and then 2 weeks we're back on masks, and there's going to be a lot of seesawing, and I know that's difficult for our families, and making sure that they know today's a mask day, today's not a mask day. So we'll have to be really strong in our messaging about what families can expect. That they need to pay attention to the communication from their building principals, that things might change, and just be adaptable. But I do like keying it off the buildings, and I do like having the transmission level on our y-axis.
And at that point, we had that kind of built in when we were looking at learning models, right? Like, you had to hit it for multiple days, and then when we made a change, it was going to last at least 2 weeks or whatever it is, so we weren't yanking back and forth every other day or something like that. To your point, Lisa, on the percents versus the numbers on big schools or small schools, I could always do something like 5 kids or 2%, whichever's bigger, or something like, have a blend there, to try and give some guidance as to where we land. There's got to be a path to the point where they're not required, right? Because we feel like things are good enough. And there's got to be a point where they have to be required, right? And just listening to Chase say, I don't remember what city you said it was like 3% or something on low, and we haven't hit that. I know that we have had points in time where we felt like we needed to be wearing masks, but if we used that number, we never would have got there, right? Like that's not the right number. So it's got to be something that at some point in time, we've tipped over it, right? So that's how I would try and work out the numbers in my head, I guess, to try and figure out, okay, where does that number fit on the screen? Something to that effect. But I do like the multiple pieces. I think the countywide data is not updated super frequently. So it by itself is not great. But, what's happening in our community can't trickle into our schools and vice versa. So I think it's important to pay attention to it. But then the schools themselves, they're their own, little petri dishes at some points, right? And one's going to be worse than another. So I think it's a good plan to look at both pieces.
I did want to add, I also don't want us to lose sight of why we can require masks now, and that's because a federal judge found that not doing so presents a risk to the safety and health of our entitled students. And so before we transition to a masks optional system, I would want to make sure we've done a deep look that we don't have students that we have a legal obligation to protect by requiring masking in those settings. Looking at if we have IEP plans that require masking, and then regardless of what this looks like, we're requiring maskings in those situations so that our entitled students still have a safe and access to FAPE.
Sure, I agree, I heard that. So
Yeah, I just want to say again, I frankly, I know I am not technically qualified to decide on what percentage to put in those tables. So I'm going to be really wanting to know what the Health and Safety Committee.
And I think that's what we somewhat expected, Charlie. I think when Chase was sharing that question, part of what we wanted to hear from you tonight, is this the right direction to look? Do we have the right idea looking at a low, moderate, high category? If you had strong feelings about what a percentage or a category needed to look like, that we could make those edits or we could adjust. You know, Sean was talking about those transmission levels on the Johnson County not being updated very much, but if we ever get to yellow again, it'll be a big deal, right? We'll all notice that shift. So there's some things in there that, you know, we know aren't super flexible, and that's what I kind of shared with you guys last time, that, you know, we probably just can't use the county transmission level because it's been consistent. So how do we get a little more nuanced in our approach and look at some additional data points? And we'll refine that. We'll get some input from some other folks and see what we can do to bring back some further options that way to create those categories about what we could do. You know, and Lisa's right? This is anchored into a federal piece of legislation, into a federal court case. And so if that changes, or if there's a ruling that goes the other way, you know, that'll precipitate another conversation for us as well. But I think the second part of what Chase wanted to share was the bottom piece of this document that kind of talks about our other health and safety protocols beyond masks and those multiple layers of mitigation we have, and how we would look at those through these different lenses too.
Thanks, Matt. And we would also bring this back as well. You know, we know that masks are one of our biggest mitigating factors. And so we also know that if we make some changes to masks, it's going to flow naturally that we'd make changes to some of our other health and safety protocols. And we would look at them the same way, based on if we're low, moderate, or high. We would change we could potentially change what the restrictions have been, maybe potentially relax them, take some of them away. And so that will be part of the document we post and bring to you next week as well. Again, we feel like that if we're going to relax the mask mandate, we have to take a look at some of these other pieces as well when we do that, but we don't want to provide a surprise when you open the document and we be like, wait a second, they didn't talk to us about this. So we're kind of looking at the same thing, and you see some of the categories we've talked a lot about: visitors, field trips, community use, attendance at gatherings, travel, and just depending on low, moderate, or high, we made some determinations. You know, naturally that if it's low, there'll be more access, but just like we're keeping mask in moderate or high, we'll be closer to what we are right now with that much reduced access standard, to make sure that we're consistent not only with masks, but with the other health and safety strategies that we have in place. So this would be part of the document that we propose as well, so that people have that clarity about what the opportunities and expectations are in the district. Questions on this piece or on the vaccine clinic or other things that have come up? Or yes, Lisa.
Can you talk me through the quarantine of close contact? Because it says no quarantine across the board.
So that's just kind of some transparency there. I mean, that's more what we've done at the secondary level because of the availability of vaccines. And so with the vaccines available to our elementary students, if we made this move and if we went away from the mask requirement, we would go to that same type of contact tracing quarantine protocol that we're using at the secondary.
So we would, in essence, wipe out the elementary quarantine policy and just have one quarantine policy, and that's our secondary level.
Correct.
Okay, and that's great. I was going to bring that up, that I was hoping that we would do that today, because I think that's, once the vaccine's available to those kids, that's the direction that we should be headed in.
That was kind of our reflection on the earlier conversation we've had with the board of the changes you all were maybe anticipating once the vaccine was available. But again, still draft form, still just for conversation, and we can come back and have additional conversation on the 22nd or 23rd.
I do wonder if on the infograph, once that gets pushed out, maybe no quarantine is not maybe the right term to use.
Okay.
Because my understanding is we do quarantine at the secondary if you weren't wearing a mask and you're not vaccinated.
Sure.
So there's still a quarantine that can kick in. So maybe just, you know, I don't know, secondary quarantine policy or something. I don't want to mislead people to think that we're just taking quarantine away altogether.
Yeah, that's a valid point. I was like, we are quarantining people, right? And I know it's happening at the secondary level.
We will make that revision.
And I think it'll be an effective message, hopefully, to parents that, again, if you want your child to stay in school and avoid quarantines, the vaccine is a great way to make sure that they will be in school unless they are COVID positive.
I like this. I know the very beginning of the school year, right, shortly after we kind of put out some policy work, we had a lot of parents coming in and talking about, field trips and visitors and, helpers in the building and things like that, try and make sure that we're being adaptable to the situation, right? And, thinking about, okay, what is the work being done and, how bad is it in that school or whatever it is. So I think this is a nice, clear, articulate way of letting folks know what is and is not acceptable and when it is and is not acceptable. So,
Thank you.
Anything else? All right. We can keep moving. Was there anything else on the this item, Matt, that you wanted to share?
No, that's all we had for this evening, Sean.
Was any other thoughts from directors that you'd want to see kind of at maybe the next update that you didn't get tonight or anything specifically? All right. Keep looking at those numbers would be good. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our action items. We do have to take an official vote on our Grantwood AEA director. We had one person kind of submit whatever their paperwork was, right? We have one candidate to choose from. I don't know if there's much discussion, but if there is, you're welcome to it. Otherwise, I would just entertain a motion. Now that Charlie's walked out of the room.
I move we support the Grantwood AEA Director District 1 recommendation.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, Kim.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with Directors Godwin, Clausen, Malone, Eystone, and Williams voting yea, and Eastham not present at vote.
All right, thank you, Kim. We can move on to the secondary voluntary transfer guidelines. And I think I'll just kick it off to you, Matt, to get us started.
Sure. So I don't know how deep of a dive you want to do into this evening, but we have a secondary voluntary transfer form kind of worked up for you there with the process. And so this, again, starts from the closed concept of really, in most cases, not honoring secondary voluntary transfers with the exception of a few circumstances. One of those that we've talked about, of course, is Kirkwood and the Alexander attendance areas. I do think the board needs to have a conversation around if that is a 7-12 decision, if that's a 7-8 decision, and then a separate decision at 9-12 for those two attendance areas. So if it's a junior high and high school transfer that we'd find acceptable, or if it would just be for the junior high experience. Some other components on there that we would want to draw your attention to for exceptions would be some of the open enrollment language, but more really focused on the bullying, a founded bullying and harassment case in that situation. And from there, I guess I'd ask if Amy or Nick have anything that they would want to add to the conversation, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory from previous conversations we've had, and maybe it's just better if we answer your questions at this point or anything that way too. But Amy or Nick, anything else you'd want to provide? And as soon as I said that, I just remembered one other piece I wanted to share was a data component. There were, Kim and I worked on this today, 34 students at the Alexander attendance zone enrolled at Southeast, and 45 students in the Kirkwood attendance area enrolled at Northwest. And then if you take that same frame of thinking around the 45 Kirkwood at Northwest, there's actually 38 students from the Kirkwood attendance area then attending West High School. So 45 at Northwest, 38 at West. And then if we look at the 34 Alexander students at Southeast, there's 52 Alexander students at City. So just for a frame of reference, I think there was a question about what the volume of those is or those are at each level. So
do you know what that might be in a percent of the number of kids? Like, it's that all of the kids from the Kirkwood area that are in junior high at Northwest, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't have that, Sean.
Because that would be interesting. So I'll be free. I told Matt, the way I look at it is that you transfer into a school. You're not transferring into a feeder pattern. That's how I see it, right? So you're applying to transfer into a school. So for me, it seems like they should be separate. And if we're going to say that overall it's closed, you're going to have an exception that lets you go into one and or the other one. If you have it just, the exception is you're going into both, you might as well change your boundaries, because then it's no good, right? So I really feel the Kirkwood and Northwest connection, because, I mean, they share a parking lot, for crying out loud. Like, it really makes sense to me that should be a thing. Just because, you know, that's the side of town I'm on. I look at West versus Liberty at that point, and I don't see a huge difference in, like, getting to the schools, but the child's experience, I don't experience that, so I don't know what that's like, is to know if you let them do it at junior high and don't let them do it at high school. I don't know how that affects the child, and I'm really not as clear on, you know, the kids that are at Alexander going to, you know, Southeast versus Northwest and vice versa. I'm just not as in tune to that, but I do feel that you transfer into a school and not a feeder pattern. So I think we have to look at them separately. That I feel pretty strongly about that. The rest of it, I think I told Matt, it's like, it's not a hill I want to die on, because I want us to kind of finish this, right? We did our boundary work for a reason at the elementary level, and I know folks before us did boundary work at the secondary level for a reason, right? And so it's important. So I want to hold to it as much as we can without causing serious limitations for students. And so I do feel the Kirkwood Northwest for sure is a thing we need to be cognizant of. The rest of it, I don't feel it as much, but other folks might.
So, just one thing to add some additional context for you guys as you deliberate here. So, you know, there's the boundary conversation, right, around what do you do then with the Kirkwood attendance area, the Alexander attendance area as they go to high school. I think the other thing you'd hear from those students, right, you give them a 2-year experience to start secondary school. You know, so are you really creating a real opportunity for them to go to that junior high and be engaged there than if you're going to tell them they got to go to a different high school with a different peer group after that? So just something to think about. I'm not sure that there's a perfect answer to that. I think it's tricky having Kirkwood, you know, zoned into that attendance area at Northwest. And then I would just say, kind of to answer your question too, Sean, I think Alexander kids just on the southeast side of town, I mean, that's southeast, right? I mean, I think that's how that's viewed. And so it's a little awkward, you know, having it over there on the west side as well. So I think that would just be another point to kind of think about is, I agree, separate schools, we could facilitate a process, you know, that they have to do that again at the high school level. I don't think that's the biggest issue, but I think the issue is really, you know, do you want to allow the high school component? And if you don't allow the high school component, then what's the cost of that potentially to the kids? So, and sorry, my microphone was on.
Yeah, I mean, that's that's what I come back to is, you know, because I know the problem we're trying to solve with redistricting. My question is, and always has been, does the solution to the problem make it harder for the individual that you're trying to help? You know, and that's why I want to know, you know, because we had buses going up to North Central and it didn't get used. Kids still weren't engaged. It took a long time, you know, when the Alexander kids first went to Northwest, I know that the reports were they didn't feel a part of that community. And then to say you're going to go to Northwest and maybe start to build that community, you know, now you got to go back to city where you've lost that. So to me, I really, on this one, you know, I really go back to what is the experience of the kid, and are we, you know, doing more harm than good by trying to solve the problem? I mean, that's where, you know, and yeah, Kirkwood Northwest is really apparent because you see it, but, you know, again, to go all the way from Alexander all the way out to Northwest, that's a hike, and they're the only kids in our district for whom we provide that experience. And I get the feeder pattern. The problem is everybody else in the district gets that, right? It is a feeder pattern for everyone else, and so to me, it feels more exclusionary for these two groups of kids, two of the, higher, higher free and reduced lunch populations that we have in the district. So that's, and then my other question would be, as we dig into this, how has it been going? What are the experiences of those kids? Are we seeing, what is the difference for those individual students as far as, are they feeling welcome in these new environments? Do they feel like they're a part of the community and the family? And obviously my daughter's at Kirkwood, and so that's my experience. It is tough, because are you a Bolt? Are you a Trojan, right? And it doesn't, we can get through that. That's a pretty minor thing of what T-shirt you're going to buy and kind of what, how you see yourself. But if the real experience on the ground is, I make it harder for you to be a part of the school community, I don't see what problem we're solving. I don't see if I understand the problem we're trying to solve. I don't know that the solution is better than, I don't know if it makes it better or if it makes it worse.
I'm glad you went before me because you eloquently said what was on my mind much better than I would. But I agree wholeheartedly with you, JP. I think, if we're going to allow the secondary transfer to happen at the junior high, and we're asking these kids to stay with their friend group, stay with their peer group, go to junior high, compete on athletic teams, do band, do extracurriculars as a group, and then we're saying we're going to rip you up and drop you into a school that's very alien to you, that you don't know people at, that you haven't had those connections with, that you don't have those friends and support, I don't think we're really allowing a meaningful junior high option. I mean, I think it's just a paper option that's meaningless because you have to do so much transitioning at your high school. And to hear that it's 40-some kids at West and 50-some kids at City, it just seems like the harm that we're going to do to that very small pool of kids is much more tangible than some slight balancing out of FRL percentages between the three high schools. And I think of my own kids and have fun with these kids until 6th grade, but don't get too close because you're never going to see them. That's not fair to these kids. So if we're going to do it, we got to give them the option to stay with their peer group and stay with their friends up until 12th grade. That's where I'm at it.
I guess the counter argument to that then is that they're choosing to not stay with their peer group at 7th grade and then creating a whole new peer group up through 12th grade because the rest of their school, that doesn't voluntary transfer, is going a different direction, right? So it's a choice to stay with the peer group or not.
Yeah, but to me, junior high is such a shuffle because you have all these new groups of people moving into the school that some of your school is going, but some of your school is going to a different junior high, but it just seems, it feels different to me.
Adam did some math for me while we were talking here, and it's like a 2/3, 1/3 split to give you a percentage basis. So 2/3 of
transferring,
2/3 of the Kirkwood kids are going to Northwest on a transfer currently, and 1/3 are going to North Central. Same rough breakdown. Of course, we'd want to be more precise with that if we were showing you data, but that's a rough idea, so you can have some context.
It seems quite a bit less than at the high school level, at least for the Kirkwood kids. I mean, it's a smaller number over 4 grades. But maybe I'm wrong. Or is that total?
Yeah, the percentages really, when I pulled the numbers real quick, the percentages are pretty consistent from class to class, but there are differences in the size of the classes. And that varies, especially at a smaller school like Kirkwood, pretty widely, actually, from year to year. So that explains some of that.
Thank you. I don't know. Are there other comments from folks they want to see on this? I guess because we're at the point we have it in as an action item, so I guess the question I'd be asking folks is, are you okay with the way it's written now to take action on it, or does it need work? And I'm kind of looking around. I mean, I'm hearing all the arguments. And
I think I'm okay with it the way it's written now.
Yeah, I'm okay with it the way it's written now.
Ditto.
So I'm gonna like say a terrible thing here, just because I can. You gave my microphone, I could say, but if we're okay with leaving these transfers in, and I get all the reasons for it, I really do. I do feel like it undermines the boundaries, so then my next logical thought is then we should probably be looking at the boundaries again at the secondary level. That if we're saying these schools are going to end up in a different feeder pattern than what we have set out, something should change then in a different way to still try and solve the problem. As you said, we have a problem we're trying to solve, and we just undid part of that solution. I think that's the next logical step. And I'm okay with that being the next logical step, and I'm okay with this being our plan until we do that step. Because I do think we need to close our secondary voluntary transfer. Like, I think that's a primary thing in my head that we need to do. So we're not doing it tonight, mind you. I know you get off the hook, Janet. So I think that's something we'll have to tackle then. And I'm okay with that. So we've tackled big things already. I don't like to redo work that other people did, but we're kind of doing that with these exceptions. So that's where I'm at. So. But tonight, if everybody's good with this as our step one, we don't feel like we need to change it tonight, I would entertain a motion.
Just briefly to your point, Sean, which is an important point. I'm trying to think. I think I'm coming around to the notion that this is probably an explainable exception to the boundary thing. So. But I know we don't have to worry about that tonight, so.
Looking for a motion then.
I move that we approve this transfer policy as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion from folks? All right, Kim?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with Directors Godwin, Clausen, Eystone, Eastham, and Williams voting yea, and Director Malone voting nay.
Moving on, we have our Director Liaison report. Are there any folks that want to weigh in on anything that they did?
I would just mention that it wasn't me, but my daughter did take advantage of the clinic at Kirkwood today and got her first vaccine shot. So we're really excited about that and appreciate all the work folks are putting in.
Anything else anybody wants to highlight there? All right, we can move on to the next item. And I got to tell you that it's been a long night, and I kind of lost the celebratory feeling, and I was a little concerned at how this was going to play out. But then, again, you gave me the microphone, so I just get to go first. One of the things I have learned from Janet and have tried to remember is she is always reminding us of, you know, keeping that North Star, right, in everything we do. And our North Star is all those kids that were here tonight. So I think that was just a good reminder that everything we do is to try and make sure that their lives are better than our generation and the generation before us and everything there. So while I was struggling with trying to be happy in this moment for you, it was a good, strong reminder of, one of the things you taught me. One of the other things you taught me, as you sat in this chair before I did and did it remarkably well, was process. Like, really follow the process, and the process is going to lead us to solutions, right? And I really try and follow that process. I failed it tonight by letting people talk more than their 4 minutes, but I felt like we needed to hear everybody and everything they had to say, so I blew out the process. But that is something else that I've really learned from you. And just kind of on a personal note, most of you are aware, but there's 4 of us sitting here that campaigned together and ran together and built a friendship long before we got elected, right? We started in like March or April of that year. Sat there every Saturday morning at a farmer's market, sometimes freezing our butts off and sometimes sweating our butts off. You know, it's Iowa. And just being able for all of us to communicate together really built a good foundation for us to be successful up here. And I'm not one of those people who goes out and just says, "Hi, I'm Sean, pleased to meet you, talk to me." But Janet is one of those people, and I think that helped me get to know all these folks up here. So again, I think my success is built on a lot of people's successes around here. I'm going to point to everybody here. But talking about Janet, and so my success has been built on Janet's. So my thanks to you for everything you've done for me personally and professionally. I got a cool little thing to hand you, but I want other people to talk. Janet was president. She was on the operations committee. I don't know how many things she did. She was a representative at the foundation meetings and all sorts of stuff, and she did it all while having a crazy hectic work life, home life with her kids. She has done it all, and I'm just incredibly proud to have known you and learned from you, so thank you. And now I'm going to dab my eyes because it's dusty up here and pass it off to someone else.
Go ahead.
Seriously. I don't know what to say. I'm going to miss seeing you at the board table. Like Sean mentioned, it started over 4 years ago, farmers market, and the fact that you and I always beat the boys there in the morning gave us even more bonding time until they showed up. But I have definitely appreciated the friendship that we have been able to build. You are a remarkable woman that I cannot say enough good things about. I've told you some of the stories with people that I work with, and just the simple fear Janet's name sometimes strikes in people when I mention her name. I'm like, Janet's a teddy bear. Oh my God, I love her. But I really do. You have shown me how to be strong and unprecedented waters sometimes in serving in this role. You have been a confidant, a friend, and more importantly, a leader when you were our president. You have done a remarkable job. And lastly, you know how to wear a pantsuit. So I left something for you under your chair and at your chair. If you change your number, you better text it to me. So sending you all the best wishes.
Yeah, I'll try to follow that. You know, I really appreciate both Sean and Ruthina talking about the campaign because it was getting to know everybody and you know, making this commitment about how we wanted to operate, you know, and I think that's founded on that friendship, but it feels like it's percolated through kind of as we've gone through, well, 2 more elections now, but one that, you know, brought new members on the board, and we maintained that collegiality. And that has, I think that's just been really foundational to letting staff do their work without maybe some of the other noise or distractions that might have been going on. So I really appreciate that. And then, like these folks also referred to, your leadership as president was, you know, it might seem daunting, like newly elected board member become the president, but I think then that just shows the strength of your leadership and your ability to lead us, because you did a great job, and you did it with grace and with empathy and with process, and you kept us on track, and that was really helpful being a new board member, just having that experience that you bring in as a part of who you are and what you do outside of here. So thank you. I really appreciate your friendship, all of your support. And yeah, make sure you keep in touch because it's been a real honor serving with you.
Janet, I don't think I'd ever describe the CEO of ACT as a teddy bear, so I had to chuckle when Ruthina said that. But I have appreciated, probably more than you realize, serving with you these past 2 years. It has been, it's been a delight, but I think the district has really benefited from you giving so much time for someone who has very little time. And I see that, and I appreciate it. I remember, and I'm grateful for you for this, for when I was elected, meeting me for coffee and walking me through and mentoring. I think that speaks to your passion that this body function well, and that's really important. You had so much professional life upheaval in the last 18 months with COVID that you could have easily checked out from this board and just shown up and hit I every time Kim says, "Are you ready to vote?" But you did not do that. You came prepared. You did your research. You contributed. And I'm grateful, and I hope the community is grateful. So I'm going to miss you.
Janet, yeah, I definitely will miss you. I don't know if you remember with it, the campaign where you and Sean, Ruthina, JP ran together, or ran at the same time. I was also in that campaign, came later to it, wasn't elected, thanks to Sean. But I was really taken by how you welcomed everyone who was in that group that year, and I was really taken by your acceptance and help to me, so especially. And then after you became a member of the board, I was really impressed. I was very impressed with your values, your ideals, your abilities, and I think the district and the kids in the district are going to be better off because you decided to use these 4 years of your life in this role. So I really thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you. So I really am a teddy bear, and I'm going to be very brief, but I do want to make just a couple of remarks, if I might, just to close this part out. First, I just want to thank the community. I mean, we've got an amazing community. It makes our jobs a lot easier when we've got folks who will vote for a giant bond and renew Pepple and Save as they did in last week's election, and the kind of engagement we get through community members is amazing. Current, past, newly elected school board members, it's amazingly hard, but amazingly rewarding. And your passion and commitment means the world to this district and to this board and how it governs. The last 4 years, I mean, it's hard to describe. Humbling is probably the best word. Rewarding, I've said before. Just to highlight a few of the things that we've done in the last few years. You mentioned it, JP, the culture of support and respect. You've said it really nicely in the campaign. Disagreeing without being disagreeable. I think we really took that on. We believe that our tone at the top here at the board level really was a model of the dialogue and discourse that we wanted to see throughout the rest of the district. The FMP 1.0, accelerating that, getting it done quickly, that was amazing. I'm really proud of not how we started the contract negotiations after the gutting of 20, but how we pivoted when we knew we got off to a bad, rough start. I'm really, really proud of how we've negotiated, and we got all the permissives into the agreements, and we've done that year after year. And I think that just shows the immense respect and dedication that we have to supporting all of our employee groups and doing it through that really concrete means of strong agreements. The LGBTQ resolution that we passed, the boundary work that we did, you know, one tiny, big but small step on that equity agenda. The way we've navigated COVID, who knew, right? And who knew how we were going to manage through that. But I'm really proud of the work of the admin team, the entire board, the community. We've threaded needles, like unbelievably tiny little needles, and we did it with health and safety and our students in mind, and social emotional health and academic achievement, and we are continuing the work tonight. Portrait of a Graduate, getting ready for FMP 2.0, all of those things are amazing. I'm proud of the work we've done on the comprehensive diversity, inclusion, and equity plan, but tonight really was profoundly sobering in terms of the amount of work we still have to do in the district to make and help all of our students feel safe, heard, not mad, not tired. But I am while feeling serious and somber, very optimistic that with Matt's leadership, that's something I think this board should be proud of, is getting Matt into the role that you're in. I know that you're listening. I know this entire board is listening to what we heard tonight. And I'm very confident that we're going to take those inputs and put it to work and do better. And so I'm really very optimistic. This is an amazing team, amazing community, and thank you for the opportunity. It's been great. I'm gonna miss y'all. I'm gonna text you during next board meeting, and make y'all laugh on camera. So.
Paul's right back there, Janet, so your seat is next to his.
Okay. Thank you all.
See, this is why she's the best. She actually comes prepared. Like, I was just winging it, and it was terrible. Thank you, Janet. Just to drag it on just a little bit longer, we have one more item before we can free Janet. We have our agenda setting. We do have Ed Committee meeting next week. It's at Shimmick, right? Yep. And we are discussing social, emotional, behavioral health. So that's coming up. And then on the 23rd, we have kind of a big night. We do have a policy and governance committee. I told you we had a couple last things to review on the 200s and the student appearance one, but then we're going to tackle the 300s again. We have our last official board meeting of this board, which is kind of, you close out the books, basically. So we basically have our community comment and our consent, and then we will adjourn the regular board, and we get to bring on our new board members for our board organizational meeting. And hi guys, they're back there. They're all going to join us, and our helpers back there to get us through the process. And then a lot of kind of housekeeping, right? Adopting all of the policies and everything for all the new board members and whatnot. The one thing I wanted to just kind of say, and we can talk about it again potentially on Monday, Kim, for our agenda setting meeting, is putting together that Excel sheet for the board committee assignments and getting that out to all of us and our new folks to get names on it ahead of the meeting. And we can finish it up at the meeting, but if we can get some of that pre-work done, would be great. And then we do have an equity update there. I would suspect there's going to be a lot of questions there. I think that's going to be the place where we have our next steps of our conversation that started tonight. I don't know that there's stuff to prepare, like things to bring with you, but I think there's going to be questions, and that's probably where we're going to have a deeper conversation and start there, because we do have to do better. With that, I think that will be that piece right there could make it a long meeting. The rest of it's actually fairly short. Want it to be fairly easy for our new board members coming on, but that's an important conversation that can't wait. So
Yeah.
with that, I don't know if there was anything else folks wanted to see, particularly at that meeting.
Well, with the equity update, since we will be discussing parts of what we heard tonight, how we handle situations, I don't know if the admin team could maybe come with suggestions of where we need to look closer at our policies to help us better deal with and respond to situations like this, because, we're policy implementing, following board. So to allow us to set the policies that allow you to then respond to situations would be helpful if we can have that conversation there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm okay with having this discussion at that part of the agenda for that night. This is going to be a challenge for us. What we heard tonight, what we heard at the BVP meeting last, Black Voices Project meeting, last night clearly says to me that black students, black parents, Hispanic students, Hispanic parents are, if this were a board of directors meeting, they probably would have dismissed the entire board. And frankly, that's not necessarily would not necessarily be a bad thing. I'm not criticizing you. I'm just saying that I think that they told me things that, you know, that we're glimpsing barely, but I really see them much more clearly and obviously now about what they see as students in this district and what's happening to them as they go to class in the district, because they engage in activities in the district. Hopefully the recommendations, Matt, that you'll ask us to consider and which we may generate ourselves will rise to the challenge that they put in front of us. Again, this is not going to be easy, but it's something that we have to do. And I would say that I'm not thinking just specifically about responding to the actions of the two students that precipitated all of this. There's much more at play here than what happened by those than what those two students did.
Yeah, we could certainly come back with that. I think you guys are right. I mean, that's the key piece. And if we're really listening to hear what they're telling us, they're obviously frustrated about this situation that occurred, right? But there's so much more behind it than that. And that's what, we tried to lead off the meeting with acknowledging that. But as you continue to listen to the hurt and the pain and, some of the pieces behind it, it's about, and we've talked about this before, it's about things not feeling different, right? That it's the same experience, a different year, a different, staff member that they encounter, and it doesn't go well for the, and so I think that's the one thing I'll say about us predetermining what the right solutions are. We don't have the lease on that, and we can't just determine what those are going to be in isolation either. And so I do think we've had multiple listening opportunities at different times, and so that can inform some of the next steps we think we need to take. But I also don't want to position us in that we are going to come and that we know the answer, because if we knew the answer, we'd be doing it, right? We're not sitting on good ideas that we think we should be doing that we haven't used. And so I do think that'll be a definite part of our conversation that we need to consider too, is that we don't have all the answers, that we probably are going to need to think about how we engage students on a regular basis to learn more and try to develop that it can't be a one-off experience when they're upset and really frustrated with the way a situation has occurred over the last couple of days, that dialogue has to be maintained in a consistent way as we go through. And I think we have a good track record of, once we've identified the action steps we are going to take, we keep coming back to them, that we don't let that slide to the back seat. It's going to be getting to what are those effective action steps we can do, because we know this isn't an easy challenge in front of us.
So we're going to have a good, healthy meeting with our newly elected board members. With that,
Sean, real quick.
Oh, go ahead.
We'd also, if possible, like to add the grow your own.
Oh, yes, that's
back to.
I had it written down on a
meeting
note, and then I
23rd,
flipped my paper
please.
over.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank
put in
you.
the grow your own. You want it on the 23rd?
Yes,
Okay.
and the first half of the meeting would be fantastic.
Perfect.
Great,
Thank you. I had it written down, I lost it. All right. Now, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.